Uh-oh, hamstring. Sniper, take the other picture.
A stinking Browns fan? Are you kidding me?
I don't care about no damn Raz score, Casey.
Scam of the day, scam of the day, scam of the day.
Welcome back to the Zebra Zillionaires. It was a tough one yesterday.
Live from Chatterbox Sports Studios, it's Off the Bench with Tom Brennaman.
Well, good morning, and a pleasant Wednesday morning to each and every one of you. We welcome you to Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. I'm Tom Brennaman. We come your way Monday through Friday, 10 to 12. That's Eastern Time. Many of you already join us by the hundreds, if not thousands, on YouTube, the Chatterbox Sports page. If you'd rather join us in podcast form, by all means, please just search Off the Bench with Tom Brennaman, and you're dialed in. Gentlemen, good morning. Casey, Paul, Jacob, Elliot, how we doing today?
Doing great, Tom. You know why? The National League finally won an All-Star game. Finally.
Casey, were you dialed in last night?
I was not dialed in. Not one bit.
I thought this was your time to be a baseball guy, and you're not watching the Midsummer Classic. This your first season as a baseball guy?
Yeah. I mean, I watched a bit of the Home Run Derby. I don't know. I'm just not a fan of, like, Pro Bowls or the All-Star games in the NBA. That just doesn't – I like to watch games that matter.
Yep.
Which is kind of counterintuitive to how I feel about the soccer leagues. And
boy, you took the words right out of my mouth, Casey. I was reading your mind as those rolled off your tongue.
I don't know. It's just different. At least you're competing.
But you'll be dialed into the Lamar Hunt Open whenever that starts again in 2028.
Yeah, of course. At least you get a little trophy, a little participation award for winning the whole thing.
Nice little pat on the fanny.
Yeah.
Gents, how we doing? Elliot.
We lost. We
Elliot.
lost.
I mean, you were 0-7 in the Home Run Derby.
Yeah.
You make a bet with my son yesterday.
Yep.
Right? When is the water dumping taking
I
place?
think we're going to do that Friday. I think we're just going to get a good start to the weekend by getting water dumped all over me. That'll be fun. But, yeah, I do it to myself. I just want to have some fun. Honestly, I thought there was a chance, but nope. I don't know if you watched the first inning. It was just defensive plays were everywhere in the first inning. So it was just like
up
no
against
chance.
the wall and all that kind of thing. Yep. But Zach Gallen did not allow a run.
It's correct. Your son was correct. He's a better gambler than I.
Rare. And Jacob, you were tuned in, right?
I was. I had the National League. It felt good to make history last night, Tom.
Nice.
Yeah. Winners, Jacob.
Winners.
We won.
We are
winners.
Did you have a bet on that too, Elliot?
No, I did not. I kept it to one bet. One bet.
You know, I got to tell you, I was looking last night. I jumped on your Twitter account.
Oh, no.
And much to my surprise and, quite honestly, dismay, I caught the Dreamweaver video.
Yeah, you like that
of
one?
you in the hot tub. That was pretty creative.
Thank you. Dreamweaver, baby. I don't know if that problem.
Do you know the name of the singer of that song?
Oh, there's no chance. No, there's no chance I know. Do you know?
I do know.
Who is it?
It's Gary Wright.
Gary Wright.
W-R-I-G-H-T. Gary
I have
Wright.
no idea.
He had a few big hits back in the day. All right, now look. Take a seat on your couch. It's time to reveal your innermost thoughts. We're getting Freudian, all this kind of thing today. Last night you were thinking, please don't let this happen. Please don't let the Reds' lone all-star, closer Alexis Diaz, be the guy who blows this game for the National League. It would have been 11 losses in a row. Diaz has been too good this year. The Red story is too good this year. It's got a chance to get some national pub, and he's about to lay an egg. Lord, please, you were saying, don't let it happen. Be honest. Well, Diaz did come into a tie game, gave up a run. That was in the sixth inning of a 1-1 game. But then another guy named Diaz, a guy who was making his first All-Star game appearance as a 32-year-old, Elias Diaz of Colorado, clubs a 2-run home run in the 8th inning, propelling the National League, as we mentioned, to its first All-Star game in a decade. 3-2 the final. Diaz becomes the first Rockies player to ever win the All-Star game MVP. Then there was the crowd chanting, practically begging Shohei Ohtani to come to Seattle when he becomes a free agent at the end of the year. And why not? Ichiro had a pretty good run up there in Seattle, didn't he? A couple of players were injured the last couple of days, right? How about your guy from the White Sox?
Which guy? Which guy?
Weren't you talking the other day about the White Sox center fielder? Were you not talking about that?
I had
That was
Luis
his-
Robert.
Your guy.
I had
guy.
Luis Robert.
I'm
guy.
sorry. I knew it was one of you
No,
guys.
yes, my guy.
Yes.
My guy.
Luis Robert hurt his calf during that home run derby. It required an MRI, and just like the rest of us, he is listed as day-to-day. Toronto closer Jordan Romano felt tightness in his back, had to leave the game in the 8th. He threw only 5 pitches in his appearance. Rob Manfred had meetings with Players Union head Tony Clark the last couple of days, and most of the conversation centered on the pitch clock and how it would or should be used in the postseason. The Players Union wants it either lengthened or done away with entirely. Manfred says, bad idea. Stay tuned. The Reds begin their drive towards a division title beginning on Friday night. That'll be at Great American Ballpark against a team directly behind them in the NL Central, the Milwaukee Brewers. Did you see the comments made by Brewers ace Corbin Burns yesterday? He was asked about teams in the Central, who's still in it, who's not, who's going to trade, who's going to acquire. Reflected on the Josh Hader deal last year when his team was in first and they ended up a game out of the playoffs. When asked about the Reds specifically, he said they need a lot more than just one starting pitcher. How about that? I love it when guys lay it on the line like that. May come back to haunt him. In football news, more drama in the Pat Fitzgerald firing by Northwestern. Fitzgerald is owed nearly $40 million on his contract, and the school apparently is trying not to pay him a nickel due to just cause language for his firing. Fitzgerald has not filed a lawsuit yet, but you can book it. One is on the way. The Bengals will induct the 2023 Ring of Honor class during halftime of that primetime Monday night game this year against the LA Rams, September the 25th. The top 2 vote getters will be announced by the team next week. All right, big time show today. We have a couple of Cincinnati legends in the house today. It's been a while since we've heard from the Hall of Famer Marty Brennaman, and coming up later on, Dennis Janson, who was the guy, sports guy on Cincinnati television in this town for almost 50 years. He will be joining us to talk about his career, some of the personalities he was around during his career, and what he's up to these days. But a pleasure to bring back the Hall of Famer Marty Brennaman after trips all over the globe. All over the globe. Where was your favorite spot, Dad, of all of those you went, because you hit a number of different European countries?
Well, that's a good question because we liked a lot of the places that we went, starting in Prague and ending in Budapest. I would say Budapest is probably the top spot because if there's a more beautiful city in the world than Budapest, then I would love to see it because it's a spectacular city. Vienna is a world-class city. I mean, that can rank with the best of them. And then the smaller towns, the thing about Europe is, Tom, and I'm sure you know because you've been, the buildings predate anything built in this country. And they've been maintained well, and it's just amazing. And especially doing it on a river cruise, which we did down the Danube River, when you're on top of this flat riverboat and you're seeing both sides of the river and the old houses and castles and such as that. And we were in Hungary, Czechoslovakia, Slovakia, Austria, and Germany. in the time in which we were gone. It was a great trip. I would highly recommend it to anybody.
While you were there, were you conferred in any form or fashion? Rumors are out there. I'm just asking you to confirm or deny. Were you involved in any of the negotiations with the Ukraine joining NATO, Sweden joining NATO, Turkey approving of Sweden joining NATO? Any thoughts on any of the above?
That would be no, but I will tell you this, that we had a tour one day. I'm trying to remember, probably in Budapest or Prague, one of the two major cities among the three that we traveled in. And I asked a very dialed-in lady who was conducting the tour, I said, are you people, does it ever cross your mind that the same thing could happen here that's happened in the Ukraine? And she said, not at all, because she said, we are a part of the European Union, and that NATO is building bases all over our country, just as a very subtle warning to the Russians that if they ever have any thought of trying to do with us what they've done in the Ukraine, that it's not going to work. Obviously, being a part of the European Union to those countries are of major importance because of the protection that union offers them in conjunction with NATO. And so it's nice to hear people in these great countries that have become a democracy and that they don't really fear that anything like that could happen in their country, that which has occurred, unfortunately, in the Ukraine.
All right, so we've covered the geopolitics now with Marty Brennaman. And the last time you were on the program, Paul Fritzner reminds us, was June the 8th. The Reds at the time were 5 games out of first, and they were 5 games under 500. Even though you were traveling all over the world, I know you were keeping tabs on what was happening with the Redlegs and what was happening back here in Cincinnati.
Yes.
What do you think? I mean, are you buying all the hype yet or no?
No, I am. I've been converted. I want to know, let all those people know on Twitter that have beat my brains out over what I said at the beginning of the season. And I'll take the beating because I firmly believed it. But I want to remind those people that I was one of thousands of people who felt the same way. This exciting bunch of young players with a big contribution from Joey Votto in the time that he's been back, they made a believer out of me. I still maintain, and I don't disagree with what Corbin Burns said, and I saw those statements attributed to him about their pitching or the lack thereof. That's the biggest single concern. I don't think you can be concerned about any other aspect about this team. It is proven beyond any question that they can hit for power. They've done that. That they can score runs. They have the attitude, and I think it's really appealing that this is such a bunch of young, talented players whose talents have all come together seemingly at the same time. They're too young to know what pressure is. They are too young to be fearful about what may be ahead of them between now and the end of the season. And I think they're a very close-knit bunch of young players that get along famously well. And so I think they've got a lot of things going for them, but that elephant in the room, and it's a big one, is the pitching or the lack thereof.
A couple of topics here, and that is Elly De La Cruz. You know, we heard all about him the last couple of years, ranked as a number 1 prospect among all prospects from all organizations in Major League Baseball. He has set the city and the baseball world on fire. But, you know, when you talk about buying the hype, I got to tell you, and I heard Jose Rijo on the radio yesterday. He was asked to compare Eric Davis to Elly De La Cruz. And he said, I'm not getting anywhere near that. He said, because I saw what Eric Davis did over the long haul, what he did when he was able to get that out there on the field, the numbers he put up, the things he was able to do offensively, defensively, power, stealing bases, blah, 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 what kind of teammate he was. And I got to tell you, I mean, I have been shocked. And no one's been more excited watching De La Cruz than I have. But I got to tell you, I mean, this stuff, I mean, I'm hearing people talking about making his bust for the Hall of Fame already. I mean, we're talking about 30 games into a guy's career. He's been incredible during the 30 games, but shouldn't everybody just maybe tap the brakes a little bit? I'm not talking about being negative here. I'm just saying slow down.
Yeah, without any question. And I think, you know what, I'm willing to cut those people some slack because it has been so long that they have had any reason to get excited about this baseball team.
Yeah.
And now they probably they become overly zealous in their approach to a player like Elly De La Cruz. And so I cut them slack in that department. I understand where they're coming from, and I know how excited they are, and they should be. But I would agree with you. Just back off, take a big, deep breath, and let this kid's abilities and maturity continue to evolve into what could be one of the most dynamic players that we've seen come along in Major League Baseball in many a year. You mentioned Eric Davis, and it was really funny. I was playing with some guys yesterday playing golf, and the same question came up to me. When's the last time you can remember a player in a Reds uniform? And I very, very, very quickly said Eric Davis. When he was healthy and he was on top of his game, all the things that we see Elly De La Cruz do right now, we saw Eric Davis do. Everything. Eric had no weakness. The only problem with him was that, unfortunately, he could not stay healthy. And I think that more than anything adversely affected the kind of final numbers that he probably would have put up in a major league career. I look back to 86 and especially 87.
Yep.
And I see the same things from I remember the same things from him that we are now seeing from De La Cruz.
Okay. Look, you know, like I said, last time you were here, the team's 5 games back. They're 5 games under 500. Now they're 10 over, 9 over. They're sitting in first place here at the All-Star break. I get back to the question again, Dad. I feel like they got to make a move here. They've got to make a move. I said months ago, and this isn't a knock on the Reds, I'd say the same thing about any team in any professional sport. I don't believe anybody for a second what they tell me about players being injured. I don't believe it. I mean, Hunter Green, you know, he was going to miss a start. That ends up being a week. He comes back, he pitches 2 really good games, and now he's hurt again. All right, and he's still in Arizona. You've got Lodolo, They told us it was a calf. Then it's a shin. Then he's going around on a scooter. He's out in Arizona. I mean, look, neither one of these guys is going to be back before the trade deadline. At least it doesn't look that way because you got to get them out and pitch and pile up some innings. Don't they have to make a move here?
Well, I think the pressure is huge on Nick Krall. And I think anybody who knows has read what I've written and have stated publicly for the last 3 years when the naysayers wanted to bury Nick Krall and throw him out the back door, that I thought he was going to be an outstanding general manager. And if he needed any vindication, doing what he's done to help this club be in the position that it's in right now, he's done it. And he's done a hell of a job of doing it. Now, having said that, I hearken back to the interview that was conducted with Christian Yelich during this past weekend before the All-Star break when the Reds were in Milwaukee, talking about being in this position and how you may conduct yourself. And he talked about what turned out to be the terrible trade that the Brewers made last year at the All-Star break. I mean, at the trade deadline when they traded Josh Hader to the San Diego Padres, and what a disaster that trade turned out to be, because they ended up, one game away from the postseason. And he also made the point, when you get to the point that this team is in right now, You got to do whatever you got to do in order to enhance their chances of getting to the postseason, because you may never be back again. It's very easy to say, you know what, we're so good that this next year we're going to be even better. There are all sorts of things that can enter into the equation that will keep that from happening. And it'll keep it from happening next year and the year after and the year after. Basically, what Yelich said is, when you're in a position that they are in, you got to go all out to do everything in your power to get you to the postseason. Because once you get there, you know, all you got to do is have 3 weeks of playing damn good baseball, and you may win the world championship.
You know, it's
it
funny
doesn't
you bring
really
it up.
mean, once you get there, it doesn't mean anymore, well, we're not as good a team as this other team. That's out the window. Everybody starts from scratch. And you get on a roll in the postseason, and all of a sudden you find yourself in the World Series and maybe win a world championship.
You know, it's funny
I'm saying that there. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Finish your thought.
I'm saying there's a lot of pressure on Nick right now to make that decision. And I think what compounds the problem is that there's really not a whole lot of pitching out there. You know, they talk about the White Sox, and I would welcome either one of those guys, Giolito or Lance Lynn, either one of them. I'm told that the Reds made overtures for both of them, and the asking price was insurmountable, was ridiculous as to what the asking price was. That's something you have to deal with. And I'm sure that there are going to be fans that if the trade deadline comes and goes and they don't do anything, they're going to have to listen to a lot of heat. Conversely, if you're rolling the dice, you know, you're going to trade for a pitcher more often than not that you're going to have for 2 months. And then after that comes a guy's gone and you've given up a lot and you don't make it. So you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. I would not want to be in Nick Carl's shoes right now.
Well, you know, I think the best example to maybe put this into perspective, I loved what you were saying about you never know what next year might bring. And I think the greatest example you could ever give would be the teams you were watching in 75 and 76 when back-to-back World Series. Now, we're talking real teams here now. I mean, this Reds team's a good team. We're talking about a real team. A team that was 75 and 25 after 100 games in 1976. I mean, this is insane stuff, right? Hall of Famers everywhere. I mean, when you're sitting there in that booth, and at the end of the 76 season, for anybody in their right mind would have told you that the very next year, 1977, again in 78, that the Reds weren't even going to make the playoffs. Forget win the World Series. I mean, somebody would have told you you're out of your mind.
Well, that's what that supports the statement made by Christian Yelich. I can remember, you know, when the Bengals went to the Super Bowl, I talked to Dan Hort and Dave Lapham. I said, boys, let me tell you something. Enjoy every second of it. Take a mind's eye photo of everything that is impressive to you, because no matter how confident you may be, you'll be back there the next year. You may not be, and you may never get back there again. And we all know they gave it a hell of a run last year, but they didn't get there. I just think that there's a lot of truth to that statement that you got to go all in, and nobody can say, well, you know what? They didn't try. And the other part of it is you energize a ball club. I can think back to the years in which the Reds finished second, you know, what was it, 4 or 5 years in a row when Pete was managing the club. And there was one year in particular, and I forget which year it was, when that team was looking to the front office to make a deal at the trade deadline for a pitcher that would help get them over the hump, and it never happened. And how it deflated the entire clubhouse, because they felt, you know, we're out there busting our butts to win and try and get this team to the postseason, and we're not getting any help from the front office. I think that's a psychological factor that has to be considered too. Not to say that would affect this team at all. I'm just saying all of these things enter into the equation and have to be considered. and it's going to be a very interesting thing. Now you're talking, 2 weeks before the trade deadline, pretty much right now. And I know people have said, well, a lot can be determined in the next 2 weeks, especially when I guess the Reds play 6. When they begin play Friday night against Milwaukee, 6 of their next 13 games will be against the Brewers. I think a lot can be determined. But the thing about it is, if you wait till the absolute deadline, is the longer you go, the higher the asking price is going to be. And if you're at the 11th hour and you're trying to pull a deal off for a pitcher, I believe the asking price then will be more than it is right now.
Well, that's why I admired it, and I said it a couple of weeks ago. That's why I really liked what the Rangers did. There was a lot of talk about Aroldis Chapman wanting to finish his career in Cincinnati. And, the Rangers are a first-place team. They're looking around. They weren't going to wait till the deadline. They went out and swung that deal to get Chapman right now, and now they got him in their bullpen. And I think everybody agrees that, based on what Corbin Burns said, and I agree with him, I think the Reds are more. If they don't get Green and Lodolo back full strength, full speed ahead, but before August the 15th, they certainly are more than just one pitcher away. I'm curious. You have said at times, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the 99 team was one of your favorite teams all time for the Reds. That's a team that went to the one-game playoff, got shut out by Al Leiter and the New York Mets at Riverfront Stadium. That team had a lot of the same sort of chemistry that this team has. Is that right? Fair to say, do you think?
Yeah. It was a more veteran team than this team is. But the chemistry was outstanding. That was a team that Greg Vaughn had the incredible September to put the team on his back. But that was a team that needed a pitcher, and they didn't get it. Well, let me think back now, because what was the left-hander's name that they picked up? They did pick up the guy that pitched with the Yankees later on.
I'm drawing a blank.
Oh, yeah, you know just as well as you know your own name. I cannot remember. I think that was in '99. I think that's when they picked him up at the trade deadline.
Not Denny Nagel, is it?
No.
No, okay.
Big fat guy, or out of shape guy. I can't think of his. I'm not even sure it was that particular.
Oh, no. You're talking about David Wells. That was back in '95.
David Wells.
That was '95. Yeah.
Okay. Then I don't know.
That was your guy, Jim. That was your guy, Jim Bowden. I mean, say whatever you want about Jim Bowden. I mean, in 1995, that was a hell of a team. I think that's one of the best Reds teams that never won a World Series. He went and got Wells. He went and got Mark Portugal. He went and got Deion Sanders. Wheeling and dealing.
Get your fucking Wagnall's dictionary out and look for the definition of clown, and you'll see his picture.
You got to admit, though, that's a hell of a couple of trades.
No, I'm not knocking the trades there, no. But I also know that he also chose to draft Chad Mottola over a guy by the name of Derek Jeter. Don't get me started on him.
Okay, I won't. Go ahead, please. But you're saying, though, that even though there were more veterans on that 95 team, right. Pete Harnisch was a guy who had been around for a while, had a really, really good year. And Sean Casey and some guys had been around. Mike Cameron had come over from the White Sox.
That was a good team.
Yeah, that was a good team. Larkin was still around on top of his game. And that was a fun bunch to watch. I think this year's group, while, as you point out, is a much younger group, there does seem to be and I don't know if it's the chicken or the egg kind of thing. I don't know if that culture was created in spring training, some carryover from some of the guys who were around last year, or whether or not the winning has created that kind of culture and togetherness.
That's a good question, because so many of these kids these were not kids that came up through the Red system together. In some cases they did, but more often than not, they didn't. The Steer kid, he came over in a trade, and a number of other players. But it seemed like they all came together either in spring training or as the season progressed. Somebody was commenting to me about, back in when they were 7 games under 500 or whatever it was early in the season. And they had a team-only meeting. And after that, things seemed to turn around. And this is a bunch of kids that you could go to the ballpark and watch them play and know that they're having a wonderful time together. They genuinely love each other. And I've often said, and people may argue the point, but I think that among all the major sports, chemistry is more important in baseball than it is in any other sport. Football, you play once a week. Basketball, you play 84 games. We're talking at a professional level now. And in baseball, 162 plus 30 more in spring training, roughly. And I just think that chemistry takes a team a long way that not having it wouldn't take it. And I use the 1990 team. I always use that as the best example because that team had the greatest chemistry of any team I've ever been around. And nobody picked them to win a blasted thing when the season got underway, and they went into first place on opening night and never left it, and beat a good Pirate team in 6 games, and then swept the Oakland Athletics, managed by the man who invented baseball. So I think that team had great chemistry. I think this team has tremendous chemistry.
Last thing I want to ask you about is this series of conversations, apparently, between Rob Manfred and Tony Clark. Clark, the head of the Players Union for Major League Baseball, and about this whole pitch clock thing. Look, I rarely agree much with what Manfred has to say or what he has done, although I give him all the credit in the world for the rule changes that have been made to the sport this year because I think it's changed the sport. It's made it more exciting. It's kept the game moving along. I think everybody agrees universally it's been a good thing. Now, all of a sudden, the Players Union is saying, you know what, we got to change this in the postseason. We either got to lengthen it or just get rid of it entirely. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts on it are 100% in support of Rob Manfred's his early position now, and we all know how things can change, is why should we change it in the postseason when we've had it the entire season? I agree 110% about that. If you're going to go with 15 and 20 with nobody on as opposed to people on base, then you keep it that way in the postseason. You do not change it. And I agree with him. Your boy Scott Boras tries to get involved and run his damn mouth about everything that goes on in baseball, and now he wants to eliminate it completely. His comments were, I don't want to lengthen the amount of time. I want to do away with it completely in the postseason. And I'm supportive of Rob Manfred in keeping it the way it is. Whether or not he will have to back off and cut a concession to the player union by extending the amount of time in between pitches. But I don't have a problem at all with the position that Manfred's taking, not one bit.
I mean, can you imagine the NFL changing, rules when you get to the playoffs that you've played under all season long? Now, an overtime rule, it's a different deal entirely. But the way the play-by-play, in this case, a pitch-by-pitch, and to suggest changing it for the playoffs to me just seems ridiculous. It would turn into, and my biggest quarrel was not only regular season games, and I felt like I've been saying it for 10, 15 years. You and I have had this conversation about how the game's gone like this because of the speed, the pace of the game. If all of a sudden you turn in your biggest games of the year, the biggest games, the playoffs, LCS, World Series, and they turn into what we've watched for the last decade of games starting at 8:30 at night. A whole generation of young kids can't stay up late and watch it when you're playing because they have school the next day. Games are going 3 hours and 45 minutes or 4 hours. You have completely, in my opinion, deflated all of the good you've done during the regular season to bring back fans or attract fans.
I agree 100%. I think to some extent, now we're getting off on another subject, but I think this game talks out of both sides of its mouth. when it talks about, we need to appeal to a younger audience because they are the lifeblood of our sport looking down the road and in the future. Yet when the postseason comes, there have been no more afternoon games played for years. These kids that are going to school can't stay up late at night, even though we have a speedier game now because of the new rules that have been implemented. And so you're saying in one breath, we need to attract more youngsters, but in the other breath, we're saying at the most important time of our season, year in and year out, they don't have access to it because they can't stay up that late. So I got a problem with that too, but that's another subject for another day. I agree with you if you compare the two sports and the fact that the NFL is consistent in what they do and they're not going to change up things once the postseason begins. I think that this game would be making a mistake if Rob Manfred knuckles under to whatever pressure Tony Clark and the union bring to bear upon him to either eliminate it completely or add more time to it. I think would be a long-term mistake.
We have one question from a member of the chat. They're in there by the hundreds, if not the thousands. One very simple question before we let you know.
Okay.
Would you be willing to break bread over lunch or an early dinner? The trio of you, Scott Boras, and Jim Bowden. Would you be on board for that dinner at the restaurant of your choice if we can make that happen?
Yes.
Really?
I mean, I'd be narrow-minded if I said no.
Wow, that is impressive. That is very impressive.
No, I do that. I would not be reluctant whatsoever. But you have to understand, I approach both of those guys from a different angle. I just don't like Jim Bowden. I probably would like Scott Boras if I got to know him.
I'm quite sure you would like him.
I probably would. I just don't care for his continued interference in the game just because he is the number one guy in the history of his business, with all due respect to a couple of old friends in Tom Rich and Jerry Kapstein. Scott Boras is the best of the best. Yeah, I would do that. I would find it very enlightening, but it would have to be a very frank dinner. I mean, it'd be no holds barred, none, zero. And I would like to think that if that ever happened, when we got up from a 3-hour dinner or whatever the case might be, I'd have a better appreciation for both of those people in what they're doing. And they'd have a better understanding of where I'm coming from.
Boy, I got to tell you, I think being in Vienna has made you a changed man because, in Vienna, it's all about diplomacy and all those kinds of things. I mean, that's a big league answer.
Let me add one more thing before I leave you today.
Yes.
And that is about the trip that we took. The only negative constant in that trip, the food stunk.
Yeah.
I mean,
it does.
The food. I'm shocked that people don't die of starvation over there. Honest to God. We were in Vienna, and we had an incredible meal that defied the taste. It was so good at Five Guys hamburger joint. And it was like I died and went to heaven.
Well, I mean, they don't serve Laura's lean over there at Five Guys, to my knowledge.
They do not.
But, they've
never tasted that delicacy, ever. No.
Well, I'm glad you made it back. I know you lost some weight, though. You did lose weight on that trip.
No, I lost weight before the trip.
Okay. All right.
I've lost 15 pounds, and I feel better about myself.
Well, I'd always blame it on the Europeans. They're the blame for a
that's
lot of the world's problems anyway.
That's true. You're right. You're right.
All right. All right. Well, Dad, great having you back. We missed you around here. Everybody was asking about you. So thanks for making the time to come back and join us today, and we'll look forward to having you next week.
Well, I'm looking forward to it too, Tom. And tell Casey and Paul and the boys, this was almost like a family reunion.
Well,
almost
since
like a family reunion.
Dad, since you were here, Jacob Tissett, who is the head video coordinator for Nick Saban in the University of Alabama, he's here on an
Am I supposed to be impressed by that?
Yeah, I would be impressed by it. That's a big league coach. This isn't some minor league operator looking for some championship or playoff wins. Nick Saban.
I don't give a damn about Nick Saban.
And then there's Elliot Rearing, who is an elder guy, another member of the liberal elite, which are everywhere in this studio. But Elliot just posted the other day in celebration of Luke Weaver being on the mound for the Reds, himself in a hot tub with the song which you remember back in your day from Gary Wright, Dream Weaver. I believe you can get me through the night. So, Elliot, Jacob, say hello to the Hall of Famer.
Hi, Marty. How are you?
Mr. Brennaman, how you doing?
How you doing, Elliot?
I'm doing good.
That's all you got to say?
Well, I don't know.
Are you kidding me?
You put me on the spot, Tom.
I just gave you that big intro about the hot tub, and that's all you got to say. Hi, Mr. Brennaman. How are you?
Marty, what was your thoughts on Europe not having any ice in the water?
You know what? Let me tell you something, Elliot. And you're right. But if you ask for it, and this is another example of the Americanization of certain areas in Europe and the tremendous influx of tourist business from the United States throughout the course of a year. You can, if you ask for it, you'll get it right now. But in most places, you have to ask for it. And we are tuned into asking for ice with a soft drink or a cocktail or whatever the case might be. And so they would readily bring it to you, and they're not shocked that you asked for it.
Well, Jacob, are you going to defend your guy?
I would
Nick Saban, are you going to defend your guy?
Marty, what's the hate for Nick Saban coming here? One legend should respect another.
I just think he's an arrogant guy. I think he comes across as
7 national championships.
Come on.
You get the right to be arrogant.
There's
right?
nobody better at halftime of games. You've got all these schleps who haven't done anything, and you're lucky to get one line out of them on those halftime interviews. Saban's stepping right up there all the time. He's there all the time. He's a common man.
He's a very arrogant guy. And you can take it or leave it. And he'd be another guy that I'd probably have a different opinion of if I sat down with him. I mean, the only time I see him coming across well is when he was doing those blasted insurance commercials with Deion Sanders. But he was getting paid a fortune to be a nice guy, not acting like a jerk when nobody's paying him and he gives people 5 seconds of interview time when he's leaving the field. I'm not a big fan.
I am really
not
surprised.
a big fan.
I am really. All right, Dad, before we let you go, I want you to see the video that I referred to. This is our guy, Elliot, now. After had Weaver laid an egg again the other night, or what prompted this?
So it was whenever Weaver comes out, the fan base goes nuts. They freak out because he gives up like 7 runs in the first 2 innings. It happens every game. So when I'm right about this, because I always say we always win on Dreamweaver night. They're 8-0 in his last 8 starts. I had a celebration after one of his victories.
And here it is.
One more time.
Oh, my God.
That's the best.
Oh, my God.
That's reason to bring Elliot on, Tom, with your band of outlaws in that studio because of something creative like that.
I saw that last night because Elliot made a bet on the air yesterday with your grandson, Luke Brennaman. Elliot said that Zach Gallen of the Diamondbacks would give up a run to the American League last night. Luke Brennaman said, mark it down, Gallen's not giving up anything. So Elliot now has to have a bucket of water dumped over his head on Friday.
Is that right, Elliot?
Yeah, that's right. That's right, Marty. I put myself in these situations. I am a kind of a, Tom called me a degenerate gambler. I think that's fair. I think it's a fair assessment, unfortunately. But you win some, you lose some. You win some, you lose some.
Well, you know what? You stuck your neck out just like I did 12 years ago when I had my head shaved. You got to do what you got to do, and
That's right.
God bless you. And I'm sure Luke will relish the fact that he can dump a bucket of water on your head.
Oh, yeah. Well, Luke's coming in next week for his big interview like we had with Elle on the podcast a couple of years ago. So he's coming in Wednesday of this week, next week, a week from today, for that big interview. And I know you'll be dialed into that. You'll see him this weekend, and we'll see you this weekend. Big Reds Hall of Fame celebration. We got Danny Graves coming on tomorrow. We got Bronson Arroyo coming on Friday. That was always one of my favorite weekends to ever be around this Reds franchise. It's unbelievable.
Well, they do a nice job of it. And they've got two guys going in that are two of my favorite people in the history of my affiliation with the ball club, especially Danny, who I have an incredible amount of affection for. He's one of my all-time favorite human beings.
All right, Dad, enjoy the weekend. It'll be a great time. Thanks again for the time.
All right, buddy. Take care.
All right.
See you
love
guys.
We'll see you soon. All right.
Love you too.
All right.
All right,
how about
guys.
that? How about that? Elliot, Dreamweaver.
Dreamweaver, baby.
Do you do that every time he starts a game?
Well, but here's the thing. I don't do a hot tub every time, but I do some kind of video because the fan base on Twitter, Tom, they're animals. They are animals when he comes out there because he's terrible. And I say that with love and respect, but he's thrown 69 and 2/3 innings. He's given up 52 earned runs. He has a 7 ERA, but by the way, that's a 2-2 record. He has a 7 ERA, he's a 2-2 record. But the fan base goes nuts, so I like to calm them down. I like to ease them into it, believe in the magic, and it's working. 8-0 in his last 8 starts.
Okay.
They only win. But yeah, I do some kind of silly thing.
Somebody said in the chat the Reds starting pitching in 1976 wasn't all that great. Before I hand it over to the Ham and Eggers, that's a Reds team that won 102 games. Now, Don Gullett got hurt about 2/3 of the way through the year. Here are the ERAs of that starting rotation. Gary Nolan, 3.4. Pat Zachary, 2.7. Freddie Norman, 3.09. Don Gullett, 3.00. The only starter with an ERA higher than 3.46 was Jack Billingham, who had an earned run average of 4.3.
Pretty good staff.
Outside of Andrew Abbott, which
good.
includes Lodolo, which includes Green, which includes Ashcraft, which includes any of them. Do any of them have an ERA lower than 4.5, not 3.5? The answer would be no. So, Ham and Eggers, take it away.
It's that time of the show, the Ham and Eggers. These guys are great. Trust me, I would know. I introduce all the best segments.
What do we want to call it today? The Bengals report or the Bearcats report? Bearcats got some new uniforms.
Yeah, they look real nice, Paul.
I don't like that sarcasm one bit. That's okay. Bearcats report.
The Bearcats report is brought to you by Encore Technologies. Encore Technologies provides IT solutions for a data-centered world with a suite of services from mobile computing to desktop to data center, supporting both centralized and work-from-home computing models to improve efficiency and
productivity.
You can visit encore.tech because that is where the path to innovation starts. The other thing that we like to talk about here on the show is Pawnee Water. It is the best tasting water in the world, and it's made right here in Hamilton, Ohio. It uses natural limestone filtration, unlike the artificial processing that many other brands use. And you can find it at pawneewater.com. That is PAHHNI water.com. PAHHNI water.com to see where you can buy it. Now, see, AJ Worst in the chat points out Paulie is such a Bearcat hater. I just asked Jacob the question. Jacob was the one that brought the phone over here this morning. I just threw the topic to you.
I can confirm that is true.
Yeah.
So the Xavier fan threw it to the Ohio State fan who works for Alabama.
Well, no. I didn't throw it to anybody.
Okay, so I like my chances of having an unbiased discussion.
Totally
some
unbiased.
Unbiased discourse regarding the
Totally
Bearcats
unbiased.
jerseys.
I say that to you with love and respect.
The
With love and
Bearcats
respect.
jerseys are objectively bad.
Oh,
Guys,
I see. I didn't say that.
This is a temporary measure. Everybody knows this when we came into this. This is a temporary measure. The Jordan deal comes in like next year or something. Everybody calm down.
Yeah, it's not important to look your best debuting in a Power 5 conference. that doesn't matter at all.
That's fine. That's all right. I'll just take it. I'll just sit here and take it.
Are you a big uniform guy?
I enjoy a good uniform, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, I mean, like some people, it's like all they care about. It's like
the
uniform. What are they wearing?
No, that's nonsense. I like some of my favorite uniforms. Like it makes the team.
Yeah.
Like it does help, right?
Sure.
Like the Bearcats, the cats, just like the red, the cats. I think that's one of my favorite jerseys of all time.
The script?
Yeah.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
So I think they're all like it certainly helps the product on the court or on the field.
You're
Can't
not winning.
can't have a bad one.
You're not winning ball games in bad uniforms, Paul.
Well, I guess that's true.
All right, like the video, everybody. We have 185 people in the chat right now. Like the video. Like the video. Like the video. Like the video. Elliot, you are conspicuously absent from.
What do you mean?
From the chat today, unless you're in there with a burner, in which case you're just.
He's in there with a burner.
Some are saying
with a burner.
There's a rumbling.
Is that true or not?
No, that's not true
Do
at
you
all.
have a burner?
I do not have a burner, Tom. I'm not that low. But, I'm thinking about getting one.
I mean, you're over there typing away, though. What are you typing?
Where you been?
I don't know.
You said I'm not that low, but then the next breath you said I'm thinking about getting one.
Yeah, well, Tom, sometimes guys hurt my feelings, and I'd like to hurt back in a way where I can't be hurt myself. So I just hide behind the burner. So I think that's funny.
I just want it on the record. I have like 6 burners, but they have not been seen in the chat in quite some time. A long time. A long time. There was one burner that was very active for a while. Disclaimer, that's not Leif Erikson. That's not Leif Erikson, if that's where people's minds are going.
Yeah.
But
Who is Leif? Who is that? Who was that? Did
Leif
we ever
Erikson?
find that guy?
No, he's a real
Leif
guy.
Erikson's been gone for a long time.
Really?
He was a real guy.
Like
He
OJ.
just-
OJ's gone, too.
OJ's been gone.
Okay, OJ actually said, I'm out of here, and he's
Why
gone.
did he say he's out of here?
OJ said in the chat like 3 weeks ago, he said he was gone, and then he's
I know.
just-
Did he give a reason?
I think it was partly because of me, Tom. I kept removing him from the chat. So that might have been my bad. Sorry, OJ.
Well,
He's not here.
Mouse Cop says Casey killed Leif Erikson. True or false? Casey?
False.
Well, why would they say that?
I don't know.
We need proof of life, Casey. If we don't have proof of life, that's the only logical outcome. After your story yesterday, you got blood on your hands.
Do I need to go prove my innocence and go on this adventure to find Leif Erikson,
Yes.
I think
who's
you
sailing the 7 seas currently?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have two bits of news here.
All right, here we go.
First thing, well,
We
neither
don't run music when we do this.
neither
Is this
one-
like breaking news?
No, neither one of these news, neither one of this is anything that's important at all. But George Santos, we haven't seen him in a while either. I'm not Sharon Peters or Karen
He's got
Peters.
things he has to deal with.
Yeah, that's right, Tom. Sir Boy Wonder asked about my allergy test results. Tree nuts, I'm good. Seafood, I'm good. Peanuts, still very allergic.
Okay.
That's tough.
All right.
The other piece of news that I just got a text about is that Hudo, the Komodo dragon at the zoo, just died.
No.
Tough scenes.
Sorry to hear that.
So we got Blanny dead, we got Hudo
So
dead,
where was
and we got
Casey?
Harambe
Where was Casey
dead.
when that animal died?
That's what I'm asking.
Where was he? Where was he?
I'm not an animal killer, guys. This cow died when I was like a wee little lad.
But somehow you're the only one who knows the story. How are you the only one who knows this story?
Because everyone
because
in
you were
here is a
there.
liberal elite except for Tom, and Tom wasn't around.
Well, except for
playing
you and
chess.
me. You and me. Although I got to tell you, after that story yesterday, I feel like I've been hazed.
I don't. This is scary, Casey.
Hey,
Casey, what are you capable of? If you're willing to
didn't
push a
do
cow
it.
down the stairs and break its legs, I don't know what else you're capable of.
Oh yeah, we didn't
Well,
clear
we
that
didn't-
up.
we
We
didn't-
didn't clear
that
that up
was
on the
not
air.
Oh, that's not public yet?
We,
That's
we
private
missed
information.
Well,
Oh.
we went to Chipotle yesterday, and we're standing in line for food, Tom. And Casey turns to us and he says, "So, fellas, I left out one very key detail."
Well,
about
hang
our-
on. I didn't leave it out on purpose. I went and asked someone who was
leave it
actually
out on
involved
accident.
with the crime. Okay.
Oh, so we know. At least we acknowledge it's a crime.
Well, that's what we're treating it like. So that we'll just go with that.
is.
So
Are
I
they
mean,
Casey
finally
has
going to get
communication.
let out like Leslie Van Houten?
it's finally all coming out. So the cows can go downstairs as long as they don't have a broken leg while they're trying to go down the stairs. So they put it down because it broke its leg going down the stairs.
Tough.
It's dark.
Tough. That's
very
tough.
dark.
Tough. Where's
tough?
Where's
Really
Peter?
good prank by those seniors. Bet there were a lot of laughs, huh? Was it worth it, Casey?
A lot of jokes.
Was it worth it, Casey?
Big jokester over here.
Yeah, a lot of laughs. Yep, a lot of laughs.
A lot of laughs. A lot of jokes. A lot of dead animals.
I didn't even do it. It wasn't even my class. It was like 5 years before I even made it to high school.
Brian B. says, Tom, the Ham and Eggers have no idea the name you just dropped, Leslie Van Houten. Does anybody in this room know who that is?
No.
Tom, don't ask questions you don't want
No.
the answers. Don't do this to yourself. You know we don't know.
Let's
who that
find out
is.
in real time. Let's find out in real time. Leslie who?
Leslie Van Houten. You don't know who that is?
Got her right here.
She is in the news today.
Oh.
She was part of the Manson family.
Oh. Yeah, I don't need to be.
Manson family that committed these murders years ago, back in the late '60s, and she's been in jail for 50-something years, and she's getting out. Okay, back in the late '60s, in fact, Elder High School, 1968, the year of our Lord, 1968. Goodness gracious, that's when Denny Janson got out of Panther Country, the home of Elliott. Absolutely. He went on to attend the University of Cincinnati. It wouldn't be long before Dennis Janson would embark on one of the most remarkable, truly remarkable careers in Cincinnati television history. And that's a lot of history. Some of the greatest names in television across the country at one time or another have worked in this town. For 45 years, he was the guy where if you wanted to know what was going on in Cincinnati sports, you would turn to Denny Janson, whether it was Channel 9 or Channel 12. He's reported on every single major story, sports story in this city for nearly 50 years. All of the people, and we'll walk through some of them today. In 2013, he decided to call it quits. He still lives here in Cincinnati and is kind enough to join us. He's always been affectionately known as just simply DJ. DJ, how are you, young man? You're looking good.
Thank you very much, Tom. I appreciate the opportunity to join you this morning. You look well as well, and congratulations on this opportunity that you've embraced wholeheartedly here and have brought a whole new dimension to sports broadcasting in the tri-state. I'm very proud of you and glad for you. Yeah.
Well, DJ, that's very kind of you to say. I appreciate it. You know, I got to thinking, a lot of times we talk about a coach's tree, right? Those that worked with a guy or underneath a guy, whatever the case may be. And I got to thinking, your family tree, TV coaching tree, has got to be something that, all the accolades that came your way, but to look around and look at all of these different people. Jake Jolivet is in the chat virtually every single day. He's gone on to things at Fox in L.A. Bill Hemmer, who was your right-hand man there at Channel 9, now on Fox News with his own show for years and years and years. And there are so many others. I would imagine that is a source of pride for you on some level, is it not?
I wouldn't be human, Tom, if I didn't revel in the success of my I don't want to call them underlings or mentees. They were my colleagues. They started out as interns more often than not and just proved themselves. I think internships are so crucial, not to just the broadcasting industry, but to any industry, because you determine in that kind of context whether you have the fire in the belly for whatever you're embracing. And I was very fortunate myself in that I got an internship when I was a sophomore at Elder High School at WSAI AM radio and answering the request line. It was just, very rudimentary grunt work, but I didn't want to leave the building. And I think that you can recognize that in people that come through our lives and into our settings. And it's like, they just want to be there. They want to be around. They want to contribute. And the fact that so many of them have gone on to great success, I think is a testament to the intern program that we had for many, many years at Channel 9. You talked about Bill Hemmer. You talked about Jake Jolivet. There's also Jason Todd Jackson, who's now the voice of the Miami Heat. There's Chris Rose, who presides over BattleBots on the web.
Yep.
And Chris does, I think, some work for MLB as well. Yeah, there's people everywhere across this country, and it is very gratifying to see them and to understand that their success started not just with me, but their exposure to John Popovich, who, as far as I'm concerned, was the preeminent broadcaster of my era. I was very, very privileged and lucky to have the opportunity to work with John, because John always did things the right way. He never phoned it in. In 28 years, we had 2 disagreements. And one of them, he simply settled by saying, DJ, you're better than that. And that was enough said. Thus chastened, I went about doing things the way Popo did. And also, another great influence in my life was Nick Clooney.
Yep.
Nick had one way of doing things, and that was the right way. It just usually coincided with being Nick's way, but more often than not, he was dead on when it came to doing the business of broadcasting and informing people in the tri-state.
I want to ask you about, I always like asking our guests that come on for an extended period of time about growing up. You're a Cincinnati guy through and through. Grew up over on the west side of town, as I mentioned, went to Elder High School. What was life like growing up in the Janson household?
It was pretty regimented. You got up in the morning. In the summertime, you went off to your job, be that caddying at Western Hills Country Club or delivering papers or cutting lawns or doing whatever. Usually in grade school, it was up in the morning, mass at 7:30 at Our Lady of Grace, and then you had class till 3 o'clock. We lived close enough to school that we could walk home at lunchtime and then go back. And it was yes, ma'am, and no, sir. And it was the 10 commandments, not the 10 suggestions. It was a pretty standard West Side upbringing, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. Little did I know that we probably were in the lower tier of the middle class, maybe even the upper tier of the lower class, but couldn't prove it by anything that we had in our house. We had everything we needed. There were a lot of wants, but we attended to the needs.
You graduate from Elder, you go to the University of Cincinnati. Had you already, kind of thought to yourself the career you ultimately would embark on was something that you wanted to do already, or was that something that just kind of started to form once you got into UC?
No, as I mentioned before, that happened when I walked into that radio station at WSFI.
In that internship, okay.
That internship, I walked in there. At the time, I wanted to be an Air Force pilot. I thought about being a ball player. I thought about being a priest. I thought about going into law enforcement, being a fireman, being a heavy equipment operator. All of these things fascinated me. But when I walked in that radio station that night and looked around and I saw Dusty Rhodes was on the air, peered through the window into the studio, and I thought, this is what I want to do. I didn't know what I could do related to it or relative to it. All I knew is that I wanted to be around it and just let the chips fall where they may. It was a great opportunity, and to have that opportunity when I was 15 years old, how many people know what they want to do from that at that age?
So what do you look back on as kind of your big break?
My big break. What my big break was, I was answering the request line, as I mentioned. I was probably, by this time, 16. Probably 16, 17, going on. And I was selling Christmas trees at the Rinks Bargain City barn on Hamilton Avenue in Mount Healthy with a friend of mine. And I was driving out there one morning in my Volkswagen, and I'm on Hamilton Avenue, and just about a block south of Galbraith Road, there was a Red Barn restaurant. And I looked over, I got stopped at a light, looked over, and this Red Barn restaurant is fully involved in flames. It is on fire. It's cooking. I thought, wow, that place is on fire. Well, as fate would have it, there was a phone booth immediately to my right in a parking lot, so I pulled my bug in there and I called 251-1360, the news line at WSAI, and a fellow by the name of Carl Eccles was on the air at the moment. He was the news director, and he was in a break, and I breathlessly said, "Carl, this is Denny Janson." I answered the request line. I'm directly opposite a Red Barn restaurant on Hamilton Avenue, about a block south of Galbraith Road. It's completely involved in flames. It looks like everyone's gotten out safely. He said, "Okay, drop that crap about answering the request line. Give your name at the end, and then sign off for 1360 Action News." So he introed me when he came out of the break. Breaking news out of Hamilton County. Let's go to our correspondent on the scene. And I reiterated what I said. I was able to update it, saying units from the Northern Hills Fire Department are now on the scene. They're getting some water on the flames. Again, it appears that everybody is out of the building safely. And we will have more later today on 1360 Action News. I'm Dennis Janson. And hung up. I went out to sell my Christmas trees with my buddy Tim Hensley, and he said, "Where have you been?" I said, "Well, I was on the radio giving a news report from a fire down the street." And he said, "Come on, who you trying to kid?" So in any event, went about selling our Christmas trees. Well, about a week later, I was strolling through the radio station. I just, like I say, went there to hang out. And Carl Eccles embraced me in the hallway, and he said, "Are you the kid that called in the fire last week?" And I said, "Yes, sir, I am." And he said, "What's your name?" I said, "Denny Janson." And he said, would you like to do something in the newsroom here? I said, "Love to." And he said, "Can you type?" And I said, "Yes, I can." And I guess that was the big break back then. I had a later break after I'd gotten out of the business for several years, and that was the Beverly Hills Supper Club fire. When I was called early on the morning after that tragedy, and a guy named Fred Wymore was working at WKRC News, and he called me and he said, "Do you remember how to edit film?" And I said, "I think it's kind of like riding a bike. You get back on it and give it a whirl." He said, "Okay, get over here. ABC just hired you." Now, this is 1977 again. I'd gotten out of the business about 74. And so I go over to Channel 12, and there is a gaggle of people in the back recesses of Channel 12. And it turns out that this was the first implementation of what Rune Arledge called task force coverage. He had just taken over. He'd left ABC Sports, gone to ABC News. Channel 12 was an ABC affiliate at the time. And they pulled out all the stops to bring in crews from Washington, Chicago, and Atlanta to cover this major, major story. Had charter flights come in. Again, this is Memorial Day weekend. Unfortunately, no film editors, not one, made any of those charter flights. So I was pressed into service, and I edited the first 3 pieces of film that ABC aired on the Beverly Hills Supper Club tragedy. Let me turn my phone off here real quick. And after that experience, I thought, you know what, that was pretty cool, working under deadlines and under pressure and working with pros. And so I started my career all over again. And again, that brought me to the newsroom at WKRC. Don Webb had gotten me involved the first time there. This time around, it was a guy named Bill Hartnett who was the news director. And so I started out as a weekend news anchor on KRC radio and did news for Q102. And then I migrated down the hall again to Channel 12. And this time, whereas my previous iteration, I'd been the entertainment editor doing movie.
I want to interrupt you there for a second because, I mean, you and I were together the other night, and you're I had never heard of this entertainment thing you were doing. I mean, you're rubbing elbows with, the Playboy bunnies and the big movie stars and all this kind of thing going on.
Oh, yeah, it was great. Again, I was 23, 24 years old and was making $75 a week, but I went everywhere for free. All the movies, all the premieres in town here, all the events, covering them, and met just a vast number of people who had interesting careers and occupations and in many cases hobbies. And it was great for a kid that grew up in Price Hill.
Yep.
And to be able to to rub shoulders with these people and have access to them, it was pretty heady stuff. It was great. Yeah.
All right, so you eventually land in sports, and Freddie Wymore was, again, for some of the younger crowd watching this show, they're not going to remember. I mean, this was a really popular dude here in town, and he gets this big job. Where did he go? He go to Washington, L.A. I can't remember. Where did he go?
He left here to go to Sacramento. Okay, and then he went from Sacramento to New York, working for ABC, Good Morning America. And then he banged around in New York for a while. And in fact, I have some video of Fred working with Lester Holt, the NBC anchor man. Fred was Lester's weekend sports guy at WNBC. And then Fred loved to ski. So he migrated back out west to Sacramento area, and then he settled in Lake Tahoe. And he had a morning ski show and would detail the ski conditions for people. They had cameras at the top of the slopes, and so he could interview people. In fact, I was a guest on his show one time, and now Fred, who ironically just arrived back in the United States, I want to say it was probably Saturday. He's been living in Thailand for the last 8 years. And Fred is a very, very interesting person. He was the one who started Teens for Decency back in the heyday when Jim Morrison and the Doors were scheduled for a concert here at Cincinnati Gardens. And Fred started a movement because they thought that Jim Morrison had been a little vulgar, and I think he exposed himself on stage somewhere. And Fred started this movement called Teens for Decency, and the rest is history.
I got a feeling my career path is on its way to Fred Wymore. I'm going to end up doing ski reports here in about another year or two with the kids out of the house, and maybe Thailand is in the future. When you broke in, though, Denny, and you become an established guy, you not only were covering, but you got to know personally, and in some cases, now 50 and 60-year friendships with, say, Johnny Bench. And Pete Rose and Chris Collinsworth and all these kinds of guys through the years. And we'll get to Johnny here in a minute. But it's amazing how much, I don't know if access is a right word, maybe trust is a right word, that there was back in those days between athletes and media as opposed to now. You don't see those relationships like you were able to build and others were able to build from a long time ago.
I would be hard-pressed to name one bar in this day and age, one tavern, one lounge, one whatever, one club where Reds players go for a beer. Do they still exist, or does everybody just stay home because of the proliferation of cameras and people just bugging you? Can you name one spot where these?
No, I can't. In fact, I used to say all the time, because I was right there with it every step of the way, like you were, about just the difference even when you go on the road. A hotel bar, right? I mean, you're in Milwaukee at 11:30 or 11 o'clock on a Tuesday night, and you're staying at the Pfister Hotel. I mean, it's a very small number of people that are going to be just sitting down there having a beer after a game. People that are staying for business or whatever it might be. I mean, it got to a point where no one would ever come down, as opposed to many, many, many years before that, where, you'd go out with players and hanging out, in my case, with, say, Mark Grace or whatever it might be. And it's changed so much. I mean, for you, not only were these guys great stars, in a couple of cases, they turned into great friends.
Indeed, and I'm very fortunate of that, and I cherish those friendships. And I think much of that has to do with the fact that I got to know their wives and their kids and their parents, and I never broke a trust. If they said, "Hey, listen, you can't," I'd say, "Not a problem, not a problem," and they knew that I was as good as my word. I never violated that. If it was a professional consideration, they knew that it might be fair game, but nothing personal ever went on the air about these guys and their peccadillos and their shortcomings and failings. And in many cases, they didn't want me to brag about them because they wanted to keep something on the down low, that they'd done some thoughtful charitable act that they had committed or actually done. And so I hate to call them drinking buddies, but that's how it sort of started and then evolved from there. Because I quit drinking many years ago, or else I probably wouldn't be sitting here talking to you today. I would have flamed out, a quarter century ago. So.
I've always wanted to ask you, and all the times I've been around you, thousands and thousands of times, and I never have, about Johnny Bench and about the whole kind of Pete Rose thing. You grew up on the west side of town. Pete Rose was Pete Rose, man. I mean, he was Cincinnati through and through. Bench comes here. This is me saying this, not you saying this, because I worked with Johnny doing the Reds on TV for a couple of years, and I love the guy. I think there is such a beautiful, warm, kind side to Johnny Bench that I think a lot of people in this town, quite frankly, in all the years that he lived here and played here, never saw that side of him. He could be standoffish at times to fans. Everybody can be standoffish at times to fans. But when that whole thing was going on, you were a sports anchor. Johnny is doing the Reds games on TV. He's Johnny Bench. Here's Pete Rose, manager of the team, going through this whole thing. Was that hard for you?
Not really. I just I played it straight. Johnny knew what I knew, and he knew that I would not violate any of his insights into Pete's situation. He and Pete had a great relationship. They just diverged when they left the clubhouse at the end of the day. Pete would go to the racetrack. Johnny would go to the country club. They had different circles of friends. Johnny's tended to be a little more well-heeled. Pete's were more consistent with his upbringing down in Saddamsville. Pete had a grit about him that appealed to a lot of people, and Johnny included. Johnny has great admiration for Pete's determination and stick-to-itiveness and his drive. The fact that Pete would have 3 knocks and he'd say, "Let's say I feel a 4th coming on," and Johnny, looking behind the plate and directing the action of the other 8 players out there on the field, he could see Pete and anticipate what Pete was going to do, because Pete was going to do whatever it took to win. And so that kept Johnny on his toes, and by virtue of that, and by extension, he kept everybody else on the field on their toes, knowing that this might happen, so be ready for it. Now, in terms of animosity, you know that Pete and Johnny shared the same attorney. In fact, I took advantage of an association with Reuven Katz years ago. He represented me. And I think Reuven probably expressed to Johnny over the years that Pete was hanging with some sketchy cats. And Johnny was obviously aware of that as well from the guys that came into the clubhouse. And Reuven told me that he told Pete, he says, "Pete, watch out who you're associating with. Don't take cash for things, and to pay your taxes." And Pete didn't do any of those things. And he ended up getting the tax bang and did a year in Terre Haute, it was Marion, Illinois. Mm-hmm. And I know that wounded Johnny, because to see a friend of his, an associate, somebody he had worked with and spent months and years with over the years, working side by side, that bothered Johnny. He just, and to the very end, even to this day, he and Johnny they have an unusual association and relationship, but it is not estranged. They pick up right where they left off when they see each other. I've witnessed that any number of times.
I've always felt like we had Johnny on this show, DJ, a couple of months ago, and just had an incredible conversation with him about this, about many other things. I have always felt, and we know that Cincinnati is a, hey, if you're one of us kind of town, right? But I've always felt, and you being a Cincinnati guy, I've always felt like, and maybe he's partly to blame, I don't know. I've always felt like because Pete was one of our own and Bench wasn't, but Pete left his own to leave and go as a free agent. Johnny always stayed, could have left, played his entire career here in Cincinnati. I always felt like that a lot of us in Cincinnati, I'm not going to say did Johnny Bench wrong. I'm not going to say that's the case. But I'm going to say we never let ourselves warm up to him, and maybe he didn't allow himself to warm up to us. Is there any validity, do you think, to that?
I think Johnny just didn't suffer fools lightly, and he was accommodating to a point to fans, not as accommodating as Pete was, obviously. But Johnny always he would observe. He said, you sign 100 autographs, and the 101st person who you turn away because you got to be somewhere, you're not a good guy. And that frustrated him because he didn't have that time or that accessibility or that inclination to take that much more time out of his day to accommodate fans. Whereas Pete never declined anybody that I ever witnessed. He would hard time him a little bit, but then he would eventually relent and, accommodate the fan.
All right, I want to talk about some of the kind of current day topics a little bit with you. One of the things is this Bengals Ring of Honor. I think we all agree that the franchise was really late to the party, but I give them credit. They've at least finally arrived at the party, late albeit, where they're recognizing these former great players and so on and so forth. I did not like the way they chose to do the voting with just season ticket holders and suite holders. And there's no perfect way. But I did say that I thought there were people out there should at least be a part of this, and you would be the first guy that comes to mind. You were here going back to, the Bob Trumpy days and the Bob Janson days and the Sam Weish as a player days, all the way, through the Kenny Anderson days, the Boomer Esiason days, the Corey Dillon days, and follow the team even now. Corey Dillon, he's been in the news a lot lately, blasting this whole thing and how he should be in or, whatever the case might be. What are your thoughts about if you were voting and say you could pick 5 of the 13 that are in there, and not to snub anybody else, but you've seen them all. Who deserves to be in that Bengals Ring of Honor here in 2023 for Dennis Janson?
Boomer Esiason, Chris Collinsworth. Boy, Dan Ross was a great player. Oh, my Lord. Bob Trumpy. He was a transitional player and personality for the Bengals. Probably Archie Griffin. Rufus Mays, offensive lineman. Reggie Williams. Reggie was a great stalwart player for this team. The list goes on and on. Ross Browner should have been there. The late Ross Browner. Hard to believe that Ross Browner is no longer with us. It's great that the Bengals are doing this. It's like a high school, like my high school, Elder High School, been in business for 100 years now. They do not have a Hall of Fame. Many other schools do, but the question and the dilemma that faces the schools like Elder High School is, where do you start? You're never going to catch up. So they've done without. Well, the Bengals finally, they had great players and great personalities and great coaches over the years. They finally have embraced the 21st century. I think Elizabeth and Caroline Blackburn, Mike Brown's granddaughters, have helped propel this forward because they just wanted to make this something that the fans could embrace. And I think the fans that you want to embrace at the very top are your season ticket holders and your
I think we lost Jenny there.
saying that he thought that it should be by a vote of upper management, which I don't know if Corey probably is aware that a lot of people view him as a truculent figure who was more of a problem than he was a problem solver here. But I'm glad they're doing it. I think the first class was very good. Isaac Curtis is just what a wonderful person he is. I've known Isaac for, 45 years. It's hard to believe that we're all getting this old. But I think Dave Lapham any day now should be there.
Yeah, there's no doubt. No doubt. For all he's done for the organization on the field and up in the booth and around the community. You know, I'm curious because you knew Paul Brown.
Yep.
There aren't many guys still hanging around that knew Paul Brown and knew him well. You did. Then you saw that transition into Mike Brown. Is there a part of you that says, I simply cannot believe what has transpired in this town? And look, the Bengals have had their moments. They went to the Super Bowl, as we know, in '88 with Boomer and Chris and that whole group. And then, they had gone before with Kenny Anderson and Munoz in that whole group. But, there was also a lot of years in there where they're winning 2, 3, 4, 5 games. Laundry list of coaches in and out of here. Town was so down, especially on Mike Brown. Are you just amazed by what's going on around this city now in its relationship with the football team and ownership of the football team?
I saw this happen a generation ago when Greg Cook was drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals. He was an absolutely terrific player. He had the gene. He was a leader. And sadly, the late Greg Cook, he was laid low by injuries very early in his career. I see Joe Burrow as the second coming of Greg Cook. Ironically, they grew up about 60 miles apart.
Yep.
Joe in Athens, Ohio, and Greg Cook in Chillicothe, Ohio. But they are transformational characters and someone that you can build a franchise around. Had Greg Cook stayed healthy, the Bengals would have been to a Super Bowl far, far sooner than they ever did. He could have made it happen. People gravitated to Greg. He was an alpha male, and people loved to be around him, and he made things happen. He was a great, great player, and he could have made a huge difference in this team and this franchise and how it was viewed over that lull that we had there. But to think that you look back at some of the people that this team has employed as quarterbacks over the years, Gus Frerotte, Scott Mitchell, Jay Schrader, Achilles Smith. Are you kidding me? And to get big league NFL prices to watch these stiffs play. And now we have Joe Burrow, like I say, the second coming of Greg Cook. And it's the crowds speak for themselves. The people have spoken. All of that stuff about the hard feelings, it's over. It's gone. Just keep Joe Burrow healthy, build around him, and the rest will take care of itself.
If there was one Cincinnati athlete through the years that you covered, I'm not talking about a personal relationship necessarily, but an athlete you covered where you would have paid to watch him play, who would it have been?
Greg Cook.
Greg Cook. I think so many people. We had Bob Trumpy on last week, DJ, and of course, he came up with Greg Cook. They were 1 year separated in draft classes. And like you, like Bob, like Sam Weish, like John Stauffer, like so many others, Eddie Shepard, our friend from up in Mount Adams, so many people tried to help Greg Cook. It is truly one of the most tragic stories in American sports history, what happened to Greg Cook.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Greg told me years ago that his father was the town drunk in Chillicothe, Ohio, and he hoped to escape that genetic inclination. That's the only way I can describe alcoholism. And he managed to fend it off for many, many years, and then it finally got hold of him and took his life. And hang on, I got a picture right here on my bulletin board of Greg Cook, 1946 to 2012, right there, Greg Cook.
Wow.
Yep, unbelievable guy. He was a tragedy, nothing short of a tragedy. He just couldn't shake it, and but his career, the basics of orthopedic surgery back when he got hurt in 1969, they were. You've seen the zippers on guys' knees, and you look at what happened to Reggie Williams and the fact that he nearly lost a leg because of knee injuries. These things, I have 2 new knees right now, and this was unheard of back when Greg Cook was playing. Guys just had to suck it up, and therapy wasn't what it is now. It's come a long, long way. I've got a good story for you about the rudimentary and the early embryonic days of the Bengals. John Murdo, who used to be the Reds traveling secretary, and then he became the business manager for the Bengals. The Bengals' first season, they played an exhibition game over in Huntington, West Virginia against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay, so they bust over there, put them up for the night. They played the game. They actually beat the Steelers. I think it was 13-7 in that game. Paul Brown, of course, was coaching. So John Murdo goes over to settle up with the promoter who staged this game. And he said, John, I am sorry, but I don't have anything for you. And he said, what do you mean? He said, I don't have any money for you. And he said, what do you mean? He says, well, we had to pay for the stadium, and the Steelers got their cut first because they were the home team. And we had to pay the vendors. And he said, I don't have anything for you. And Murdo said that he was panic-stricken. He said, I have to go over to that bus and tell Paul Brown, who sits in the front seat there, that I don't have an envelope with cash or a certified check in it. And he said, I thought Paul Brown was going to kill me. Paul Brown very calmly said, John, from now on, when we come to these places, we are not getting off the bus unless we have a certified or cashier's check in hand. Now, you go from those sort of fledgling days of the AFL about to become, the Bengals joining the NFL, to what it is today, a multi-billion-dollar, and you wire transfers and so on and so forth. I could just see Paul Brown putting an envelope of cash in his pocket, going back to one of these joints, okay? But that was Paul, he was he didn't focus on chastising John Murdo. He just found a way and made sure that it didn't happen again. Yeah, he was a pretty remarkable guy.
Last couple things I want to ask you about. When young people, and you've been so incredibly gracious with your advice and your time through the years with young people, and so many out there want to get into the broadcasting business. It is so very different than when you were coming up, heck, even when I was coming up. I'm curious, when you speak to kids even now, what kind of advice do you give to them in this crazy sort of all over the board sports TV business, local TV news? Now all of a sudden, the New York Times and the LA Times are getting rid of their sports sections. That's been in the news lately. What would you say to those people who might be watching right now that are like you were back in high school or even in college already?
Well, I don't think communication skills can ever be understated. If you can communicate, if you can write a good letter, if you can write a story, you can find work anywhere. If you choose to express yourself in writing or verbally in a broadcast venue, I think that there are more avenues and outlets, for instance, podcasts, than ever before. They don't I don't know whether you get the fulfillment that we did and the personal satisfaction that we did, not having a studio crew and having the floor crew and co-anchors. One thing that I always gauged my performance by was whether I made my co-anchors and the floor crew laugh. If I got a chuckle out of them, I'd known that the viewers, by extension, would have enjoyed what I had just put on the air. In terms of advice, boy, that's tough. If you love to write, if you love to communicate, there are still opportunities out there. I wouldn't know how to get started in this day and age. I mean, do I walk into WSAI as a 15-year-old and get a job answering a request line for free, of course? We got Arby's coupons now and then, but that was about it. I wouldn't know how to start now, Tom.
Yeah.
It's so, well, and never burn sources. I can tell you that has served me well over the years. And years ago, I had a guy that I supervised me at WSAI when I finally got a job in the newsroom. His name was Doug Anthony. This is his air name. His name was Doug Dench. He graduated from Elder many years before me. And I would go in the morning about 5:30, and he would circle stories in the Enquirer. And he said, okay, call the people mentioned in that story and then write up a couple of versions for me to use on the assorted newscasts from 5:30 or 6 a.m. roughly till about 8:30 when I left to go to a class at UC. And I said, well, why can't I just, he said, call the people and check it out. And I said, well, it's 5:30, Doug. And he says, listen, if they're important and consequential enough to be mentioned in the morning paper, they're up by 5:30 or 5:45. Okay, fine. So then I said, well, how about the story's already here. The Enquirer's got there. He goes, listen, there's something else in the paper I want to show you. And he opened up the first front page, and there inside the front page was the corrections, okay? He said, the corrections column. This is the stuff that the Enquirer got wrong yesterday, and we don't want to get puts wrong stuff and wrong information on the air. And I took that lesson to heart, and I never, ever had to offer a retraction or a correction on the air in 45 years. And I think that might be one of my proudest moments and claims, that I never got any. I used to murder Eastern European female tennis players' names, okay? They were tough. There were way too many K's and Y's and Z's and so on. So you know her, you love her, she won 2 and 4, okay? But I never got anything factually wrong that I had to correct on the air. And boy, that's a blessing. I consider that one of the things I'm proudest of.
Well, DJ, you look great. It's always great seeing you. Everybody here in town, everywhere you go, they're always saying, hey, what's happening? And they miss you on the tube, and I know we all do. And but I know life's going well for you, my friend. We're thinking about you all the time.
Before I go, I have to tell you this. I am heading over to Norwood, Ashland Avenue in Norwood. There's a big gathering today. I hope he's not watching or listening, for Tay Baker.
Really?
Coach Tay Baker is now 96. Some of his former players are gathering over there, and they're offering a little celebration of Tay on his birthday. Coached, of course, at UC and then at Xavier. And at 96, he's still active and spry, and it'll be good to see Tay Baker. I mean, there's a name from the past.
Boy, you're not lying. You're not lying. DJ, thanks for your time today, man. Great
Thanks
to see you. Great to catch up.
The best to Elliot Rearing, and thank him for his efforts as well, okay? All the best, buddy.
Elliot, are you tight? You rub elbows with the stars like Dennis Janson?
Well, I think my father's reputation, my dad is Tom. He still works at Elder, so I think it's his reputation that precedes him.
Well, you guys are doing a great job, and all the success in the world to you. I know it's going to happen. This is going to be big.
Thank you. DJ, great to see you, man. Have a great day.
God bless you. My best to Polly and the kids and Dad, okay?
Thank you, buddy. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Denny Janson, kind enough to join us, man. That guy has seen it and done it all. I remember, it's little things. Again, little things. And I'll never forget. I mean, I had met DJ, but when I'm in high school, I got long hair and, doing all the stuff that high school seniors, beer, girls, the whole 9 yards. Wanted to look like McEnroe or some of the tennis players. I'll never forget as long as I live. They had the U.S. Davis Cup down at what is now is Heritage Bank Arena, Riverfront. This was a huge deal. Huge deal. Might have been for the finals. And of all places, Heritage Bank Arena, right? I mean, a lot of people look down their noses at this place. And I remember DJ, and he was down there, and, I'm acting like a big shot around some buddies of mine talking about, I know that guy, Dennis Janson, and all this kind of stuff. And I had not seen him in a while because my hair had gotten, like I said, considerably longer and all this kind of nonsense. And I go down there, and I mean, he just treated us like $1 million. And he's got everybody and his brother wanting to spend time with him. And he sat there and hung out with us for probably 25, 35 minutes. And my buddies just couldn't believe that we knew Dennis Janson. I mean, my dad was not a quote-unquote sort of big deal then. Denny Janson was a big deal. My dad had only been the announcer for the Reds for like 4 or 5 years. We were all like 15, 16, something like that. And but DJ was a big deal. The way that business has changed, there'll never be another Dennis Janson. There might be other Marty Brennamans. Jeff Brantley is on his way to being another Joe Nuxall. Now, I'm not comparing him to Joe Nuxall, so people don't drive off the reservation here when I say that. But you get what I'm saying. There's never going to be another Dennis Janson. There are very talented sports anchors in this town, but just the very nature of the world we live in where, not as many people watch local news as they used to. That was all you had. There was no cable. Or if you wanted to know about Elder football on a Friday night, the only place you were going to find out about it, because there was no internet, was DJ telling you about the score of the game. St. X playing Moeller. Whatever it might be. And, boy, his friendship with Johnny Bench is just amazing. Just amazing. Roger wants to know, Tom, will you ever let us drive off the reservation for once? Yeah, I called you guys out earlier going off the reservation on this De La Cruz stuff. I mean, and you heard my dad, there hadn't been much to cheer about around here. But, I want to throw up when I hear people talking about De La Cruz going to the Hall of Fame.
Do you get upset?
I know Hall of Famers. I watched Hall of Famers. These are guys that worked their ass off, that were great players for 12, 15, 17, 19 years. Joey Votto is a Hall of Famer. The guy's been here a month. It's electrifying. He has more talent than any player I have ever seen in my life. Let me say that again for the record before some of you go off the reservation. He is the most talented player I have ever seen. The world is full of talented cats that didn't live up to the billing for various reasons. Before Elly De La Cruz, now Barry Bonds would be sandwiched in between when he came up with the Pirates. But Eric Davis, I was there announcing the Reds when Eric Davis came up. He was the most unique talent I have ever seen until now De La Cruz. Everybody was comparing Eric Davis to Willie Mays. He was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Player of the month in April and May, I think it was 87. As great as De La Cruz has been for this first month, you got a long way to go to catch those 2 months for Eric Davis. Well, Eric Davis runs into a wall at Wrigley Field. Everybody, when you see Wrigley Field in the summer, this ivy on the wall. Well, behind that ivy is brick. It's brick. And Eric Davis ran into that wall, cracked his shoulder in half. It's the start of a litany of things that prevented him from becoming a Hall of Fame player. Being a Hall of Famer is earned. Being a Hall of Famer is not hype or buying the hype, as we like to say here in the chat. Being a Hall of Famer is earned. Earned. Let's enjoy the ride here. Let's enjoy the ride. Right?
Right.
So
enjoy the
I
ride.
agree.
There's something wrong with that?
No. I was just going to ask you. So you believe he's talented? Do you believe he's talented enough to be a Hall of Famer?
No, without a doubt.
Okay.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. There we go.
Without a doubt.
So you do believe in the hype?
I believe in the hype. It's not even believing it. I see it. He's got the talent. He's got everything you want. He can run. He can throw. He can hit. He can hit for power. He can beat you in so many ways without even getting a base hit. He can draw a walk, steal second, steal third, steal home, and you can win a game by a run.
Yeah.
Those cats don't fall out of trees.
No, they don't.
I mean, you can't even. You've got more than enough fingers on one hand to count the number of players that have come to the big leagues that have all of those things at the level of Elly De La Cruz. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
So, Mouse Cop, it's not a matter of buying the hype.
I think it's a disservice to Elly to put that much on
I
his plate.
agree.
in
I
30
think that's a
games.
great point.
I mean, everyone's talking about. I mean, he declined the invite to the home run derby because he wants to focus on making himself better after 30 games and making the team better. I think putting the pressure on him to be a Hall of Famer 30 games into his career is outrageous.
Yeah, it's not fair to the kid. Let the kid go play. I mean, who was it around here the other day was talking about expectations and how expectations can, was Reed. That's right. Expectations can ruin the journey to becoming a Hall of Famer. Enjoy it. Watch him play. Watch him play and enjoy watching him play. He's an incredibly talented young man. And I can't wait to see him playing starting on Friday night. All right, Ham and Eggers, take it away. Hello? Bueller.
I heard you.
Bueller.
I heard you.
Bueller.
Show, the Ham and Eggers. These guys are great. Trust me. I would know. I introduce all the best segments.
Casey, you've had a rough day in the chat.
I can't get
Not as
past-
rough as that cow. Not as rough as that cow, I'll say that.
Both of Casey's legs are intact.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say anymore. Casey, when you look at an animal, what's the first thing you think of?
It's a lovely animal.
He sees food.
All right, we spent enough time on this. It's beating a dead cow. Come on.
Did you get that, Casey? Did you get the joke?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Because he said he was beating the dead cow and you killed the cow.
Because you killed the cow.
You get it?
What about your cats?
You're killing the joke. Okay.
I'm not killing anything. You're the one who killed the cow. That's all there is. Paul, what are your thoughts on Casey's cow?
Oh, I sit next to him every day. Casey's my guy. It's just had a rough day in the chat. Had a rough day.
What can I say?
I don't know. What can you say?
I cannot believe the chat has spun this in such a way.
What were your thoughts on Harambe?
I loved him.
I don't know if you
Loved
did.
him. I did. In fact, I named my fantasy football team after him.
How'd the fantasy football team do?
It's been a champion like 4 or 5 times in a row.
All right.
All right.
Yeah.
I've not shamed him whatsoever.
Wait. Alexandra says you killed an entire raccoon family.
Oh, no.
That's not great.
Oh, no.
That's not
Wait, how many raccoons did you kill?
Wait, a whole family?
You killed an entire family?
Raccoons have big
Children?
families.
Women and
Babies?
children?
Casey.
Can I explain myself first?
Well, we
Or
would
we
love
all
you-
just go blowing up?
No, we would love you to.
So back roads of Blanchester.
Oh,
no
no.
lights. No
Oh,
lights.
no.
I don't have brights on my car. I don't have like the high beams in my car. And much to my dismay, a small family of raccoons jumped out in front of my car as I'm going like 55, 65. We already know I speed. So
we know you speed.
Oh my
We
God!
already know I speed.
You were
so
committing a crime and then you killed raccoons?
Casey's wonderful wife,
Casey.
Alexandria, told us that he killed an entire family of
How
raccoons.
many
as well.
raccoons?
There might have been like 3 or 4.
Oh,
my
man.
God.
So he's a mass murderer.
I mean, this is crazy.
He's a mass murderer.
It wasn't
I gotta
intentional.
tell you, Casey,
It wasn't
I mean,
intentional.
you got to get off this train.
Well, I was
This
exposed.
is not good. The last 24 hours, you have come across, by and large, on this show as being a very decent, kind human being.
I would like to think I am.
Well, I got to tell you. I mean, I'm not suggesting that I've crossed the line in thinking otherwise, but I got to tell you, it's inching a hell of a lot closer.
When I go out in public,
I mean, we're really inching here.
When I go out in public and people ask me what I do and I say I work with a producer and I describe you, Casey, as somebody that wouldn't hurt a fly, I think that description has to change now.
All this
I think
was
I have
never
to draw a line
That
in the
is
sand.
a great observation, Paul.
I mean, because that's,
Yeah,
people,
I mean, that's a great observation.
people tune into the show. They say, Casey seems like a nice guy. I say, I couldn't work with anybody nicer. He wouldn't hurt a fly. Clearly, that's not accurate anymore. It makes me sad to have to change that.
There was never a moment of malintent when any of these scenarios. And in the raccoon family is just one example of this. The cow I wasn't even a part of. It was 5-6 years ago before I even, or not 5-6 years ago. It was 5-6 years before I even made it into high school. Years ago.
Tell you, your bride
love
though is
animals.
throwing you right in front of the bus.
She does. She just
I mean,
loves
that's
to
not, that
expose
is
me.
not cool.
She loves exposing me. It's like her favorite pastime. She just comes in this show, drops a one-liner, and then leaves.
You know what? You're right. She has done that.
She does that all the time.
She has. You might want to explore the love languages quiz with her.
I might.
Because you're
Might
not
need
meeting
to.
them. For her to just basically, I mean, you're like what the New York City subway has turned into now, the subway system. You're just some innocent schlep standing there, not bothering anybody, trying to get to work or get home from work, and some idiot who's all doped up, right, out on parole, without a doubt, and just shoves you right from behind onto the track.
Yeah. I think she enjoys seeing me in pain and suffering. I think she's
Does it make you consider Elliot and or Jake? Because Paul's already committed. He's already in. Does it make either one of you reconsider the idea, if you even had any idea of this, of one day exchanging wedding vows? Not with one another necessarily, but go ahead.
I don't know. I mean, it feels like they were doing well before the actual wedding, and now she's just throwing him under the bus.
Yeah, it's just a start.
Maybe it's time to rethink.
I think I'm rethinking as well. This is scary what's happening.
We'll see how Paul's goes.
I was told over and over again, things are going to change. They're going to change real fast. I didn't believe them. Believe in those words.
Where's Ronnie Smith when we need him?
Sports.
Cincinnati sports, specifically.
We've been all about Cincinnati sports today.
Nobody loves
all
Cincinnati sports more than Ronnie Smith. Can we all agree on that?
I agree with it.
All right.
Does FC play this weekend?
Tonight.
Do they have their players back, or is he still playing for a different team?
No, because the U.S. plays tonight.
That's right. That's in the semifinals.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you've got, I mean, I'm going to tell you, soccer, you got it all, man.
Wait.
I mean, this is just like nirvana. You get to watch FC, even though guys on their team, you can flip the channel and they're playing for Team USA. I mean, this is it, man.
Tom, are you ready for this one? Are you buckled into your chair right now?
I am. I just had to cross my legs. Yes.
The NBA is going to play an in-season tournament this year.
Well, I know that, but it's not. It's going to count towards the standings.
Yes.
Right.
Correct.
It's going to count towards the
Yeah.
standings. So those are real games.
Those are real games.
Yeah, that's the difference between this and soccer.
No. Let me clarify that, because these are real games in the Lamar Hunt Cup, in the world, in the world thing going on, not the World Cup, but whatever this
Gold
thing
Cup.
is they're playing. Yeah. The point is that players in this in-season tournament are not leaving their team.
Yeah.
Right, to go play in another in-season tournament. If you play for the Boston Celtics roster is going to be playing maybe in that in-season tournament.
Yeah.
All right. This is a whole different world. This is, I don't know what the hell it is.
It's soccer, baby.
Football.
It all happens on the pitch.
I guess.
The magic.
Do you guys think Dreamweaver makes it through this season without being cut?
I would like to hope so, because for our content stream, it would be nice to have him still around. I mean, they don't lose, so why would they cut him?
But he does have a 7 ERA, and he starts every 5th day.
I don't think he makes it through.
I don't know. I don't know.
He's expendable. He's the one expendable. I mean, I don't think he makes it through.
Yeah, but they're not bringing anybody up.
Well,
You gotta hope
Green
Connor
Lodolo
Phillips is-
comes back. Connor Phillips maybe makes it.
Dude, that's they are minimum month away. Minimum. This isn't like a position player where they got 21 days before you got to do something.
Yep.
Like we saw with Votto. And you can run him out there 5-6 days a week and get 3-4 at-bats every single day. Pitcher, it doesn't work like that. Especially for pitchers who've not pitched, in Lodolo's case, in multiple months. I don't care what the hell he's doing. Throwing with, on his scooter. Or out in Arizona. These guys have to get back up to build up in-game pitching strength and stamina. So when they join the Major League club, they're not going out there for 3 innings. Hell, they're getting enough of those starts now.
I think the funniest part about Luke Weaver is that, well, a couple things. One is that his ERA has gotten over a run and a half worse in this winning streak that the Reds have been on while he has been pitching. So in his last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 starts, as Elliot pointed out, the Reds are 8-0.
That's the bottom line.
In his start on May 31st, which was the first win of this 8-game winning streak, he had a 5.36 ERA. His ERA is now 7. But in 2 of the 3 starts before that, he allowed 1 run and 0 runs. He has not allowed less than 2 runs in any start in his 8 starts. And his ERA has gone up by over a run and a half.
Yeah.
And the Reds don't lose.
They don't lose.
I mean, the two magic men, you're going to have to come up with some bit. I mean, you got the hot tub and the Dreamweaver thing for him.
I think I know the other name.
You know where it's going.
Ian?
You got
Big
it.
Ian?
You
Big
got to
Ian
come
Jabot?
up with something. I don't know a song that has Jabot or Ian.
Oh, the English.
Well, as you know, Tom, he is a native to Great Britain. So I was thinking maybe, a little London Bridge has fallen. I don't know what I could do. So Great Britain's Ian Jabot. Maybe have some fish and chips, governor. You know what I'm saying? So I think, I don't know. I think I can figure something out for Ian Jabot.
I think fish and chips is the way to go.
Fish and chips. Every time he pitches, I just have some fish and chips. I'll start to look
just
like.
go to
I'll
Frisch's.
I'll start to look like Jabot after a couple of those. So we'll see. What happens.
I've heard Houston is right in the heart of Great Britain.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. That's what I heard too. He played for him. That's all I can say. But yeah, Tom, I agree. I'll have to figure something out.
You've got to come
Ian
up with
Jabot.
something strong there.
He's the greatest of the Brits.
Do we have a cherry on top?
We do have a cherry on top.
Presented by United Dairy Farmers.
Kind of a quick one. I'm gonna have to play this.
We're going to run that Dreamweaver one more time before we get out of here today.
But this is the new.
Is this the sonogram of Casey's baby on the way?
Whoa.
This is the new Sphere out in Las Vegas. Over $2 billion was poured into this Sphere.
I'd be so embarrassed if this was in my city.
Could you imagine?
What is this?
This is a sphere that cost over $2 billion. The entire outside of this is covered in screens. Could you imagine driving by and seeing this?
Wow.
Do you have a picture of it when it's not like that? When it's just sitting there? Okay.
I don't know. I mean, I don't
there,
have a
there it
picture
is,
available.
just sitting there, right there.
The world's rotating though.
Yeah.
Well, that's the.
There's an image. He's talking about when there's no image on the sphere, right?
Oh yeah. No, because like right now they're lighting it up like a basketball for the summer league.
Right.
Well, look at that.
That is so
Pretty cool.
Isn't that crazy?
Pretty cool. But how much did it cost?
2.3
Yeah,
billion?
2.3 billion.
Billion for that.
Yeah, it was orange. I don't know why that one's blue. But yeah.
Holds about 19,000 people. It'll host like UFC events and big fights and stuff like that in Vegas.
It's an arena, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an arena. It's pretty cool.
About 19,000 seats.
It is pretty cool, I have to admit.
So is the idea to replace T-Mobile? Because T-Mobile Arena right now is where all of the big events are.
I don't believe the Golden Knights would be able to play there. I don't think it's big enough. I think it's just for
so it's
UFC,
just like UFC, boxing,
yeah.
some of those types of events.
Marquee
You think they play basketball there?
Vegas stuff.
Yeah, Summer League probably. Stuff with small crowds.
Yeah.
Vegas stuff.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. We have box lunch coming up.
We have box lunch coming up. And so in the throw before the box lunch animation, could we one more time, just for old lang syne, put up Dreamweaver?
Good old Dreamweaver.
So ridiculous.
Good old Dreamweaver.
Yeah, let's see it. Hey, everybody, great job today. Box lunch is coming up. Don't forget Danny Graves tomorrow, going to join the program. Really excited about that, along with Tracy Jones. Danny going into the Reds Hall of Fame. Then Friday, Charlie Goldsmith will be here previewing the Reds Brewers and Bronson Arroyo. We welcome him back to the program. But just when you look at the weekend matchups, perhaps Luke Weaver is one of the three. Let this come to mind.
I love when Casey lets him win twice.
I love it too.
I've done twice.
I must admit, I didn't think much of this show the first time I laid eyes on it. Seemed like a bunch of stiffs wasting nice
Worst
microphones.
trade of all time happened back in 1803. Go ahead. Napoleon Bonaparte traded the Louisiana Purchase for $3 million. Napoleon, what happened? Half the country for $3 million. You can't even get Tucker Barnhart for $3
Then
million.
I came to realize these guys are funny.
And Justin Fields have identical stats the last 5 weeks about throwing the football. This guy, okay,
And
folks,
are
is a
some of the
fidget
best
spinner.
gamblers I've come to know.
If you're betting on USC and or TCU, let it be known you are a square.
TCU is going to hammer this team tomorrow night.
I hate to hear that.
Tomorrow
when we come back
afternoon.
in here on Monday, you're going to be happy as a lark because USC lost, but you're going to be wrong about TCU.
Get ready for the most useless hour of your day. It's time for Boxed Lunch, presented by Betfred Sportsbook. Now, Casey, run that track.
Sportsbook. As I was walking in, I saw a seat out in the office outside of the studio. So there's just spilled Keurig coffee everywhere. So that's good. So I got to clean that once this show's over. But guys, welcome in. It was a great off the bench. Elliot, Jacob, Casey, Paul's using the restroom. Elliot and Jacob, how are you guys doing?
I'm good. How was your Two-Beer Tuesday, Reed?
Two Beer Tuesday was fantastic. They do a little thing at Municipal Brewworks called Singo. They play different music, and you got your bingo card with different songs. You ever played Singo?
I have not. No.
So it's exactly what it sounds like. You get a bingo card with different songs on it, and they play the songs. And if your song comes up, first off, you got to recognize that that's the song, because different music and stuff like that. It's a very popular little game. Beautiful little Tuesday. Elliot, how are you?
I'm great, Reed. It's a great day to be here in Hamilton. I think, last night I was going to join you for Two Beer Tuesday because I've seen that so when I drive home, I see that building whenever you were at there. And I've always wondered what they do in there because I think I've seen like a food truck. They have food trucks up there?
Yeah, it's a brewery. Yep.
Okay, so I like that.
That used to be the city building. Go ahead.
Two Beer Tuesday, I'll be here one day.
Yeah, they just committed a multi-million-dollar, whatever you want to call it, renovation to that whole building. It's going to be, I think, a Hilton.
Oh.
And it's going to have a rooftop event center. And the brewery's going to get an expansion on the indoors. It's not just good. Right now, it's just literally where they brew the beer in the tanks. And they come on out. I think Chatterbox Sports has free beers there. They have pour it forward. And I think I put some Chatterbox Sports beers in there, paid by me. So if you guys ever want to stop in there, get a beer, free beers.
Yes.
You just gotta get around. Just gotta get around.
Look at that.
All right, guys, let's get this show on the road. So yesterday was the All-Star game. National League finally won. Shout out Paul. Bet won, right?
Let's go, baby. The National League. At some point, they had to do it. At some point, they had to win. They couldn't lose forever. I didn't even have a Twitter account the last time they won.
2012. You didn't have. When did you launch your Twitter account?
It was. I went back and looked. It was August of 2012. It was like a month after. But still.
Last time that the National League won the All-Star game, the Cincinnati Reds won the National League Central. Just saying. Something to think about. I launched my Twitter in December of 2009. We had a fun little day going through some old Reed Mouse tweets. High school Reed was a wild child. But does any other sport, because we're all National League guys in here. Were we all rooting for the National League yesterday? I think Jacob was. Elliot, did you have a bet on the American League though?
I did not.
Okay.
No, so I was rooting for the National League.
Okay. Does any other sport, do all sports, have as much pride in the league? Because, being a Cubs fan, you guys are Reds fans, you take pride in the All-Star game and the National League, let's win one. They've only won 3 times in my lifetime, now 4. Does any other sport have a similar pride? Like, does the NBA, East versus West, is there any pride? Because they don't even do the East-West in the All-Star game anymore.
No.
Is there pride in the fact that, the East won the NBA championship?
No. I mean, most of the time, at least in football, I'm rooting for the NFC team in the Super Bowl if the Bengals aren't in it. I'm not rooting for the Chiefs. I'm not rooting for the Steelers or the Patriots. So I think baseball is really the only sport where you align with the teams you play more often.
What about, college football?
Conferences is the only thing that I would say is close. Because, you see SEC fans pull for the SEC, Big Ten fans pull for the Big Ten, but that's about the only thing that I would say is close to the NLAO. Yeah, college is unique in that. If, being a Xavier fan, you want to see the Big East have success because there's a little bit of pride because it showers on your own team then. Right.
Because then you're like, all right, the conference that we play in is one of the best. Same with college football. But as for the pros, the only time that I've even come close was Trace had a shtick in here back when Box Lunch started, just always saying that the NFC was better than the AFC. And I constantly was being home like, no, it's not. What are you talking about? Look at the quarterbacks in it. So I had a little affinity for the AFC this year, even though it was the Chiefs that beat the Bengals in the AFC Championship. I've gotten the title as the Patrick Mahomes slappy around here. I just don't like when people act like Patrick Mahomes isn't the best quarterback in the league. I was wondering if any other professional sport has pride. And I wonder if that's going to go away because part of the pride was the fact that they played differently, right? I mean, the NL had the pitcher, the AL had the DH, so there's a bit of that pride, but that's been going on for longer than even the DH was introduced in 1973, I think, is when the designated hitter was introduced. So I'll be interested to see if that continues on now, and we've talked about it in our Off the Bench. We've talked about it here. Now that the schedule has changed, not just for interleague play, but you play every team every single season. So you got to wonder if that's going to go away. Everyone was making the point that they want to see the All-Star game mean more back when it used to determine who got home field advantage in the World Series. I don't need one game in the middle of July between two leagues to determine who gets home field advantage. It just is what it is. However much stock you put in the All-Star game is what it is. I think it's the best All-Star game among sports because I think it pretty definitively is. Everyone talks about the NHL has a great All-Star game, but I don't need it to determine anything more than just a little bit of pride between the leagues. Let me ask you guys questions. The All-Star game came back here in 2015, and tickets were incredibly expensive. I went to the Home Run Derby. I think you went to the celebrity softball game and the Futures game, which was day one, right? It goes that game, then it goes Home Run Derby, then it goes the actual All-Star game. So the question I'm going to propose is the Reds are currently in first place in the National League Central. Would you rather have tickets to the entire All-Star weekend, regardless of where it is? So Seattle this year. Where is it next year? Anyone know off the top of their head? I know the Cubs might get it like in 2025. Would you rather have tickets the entire All-Star weekend, make a full week trip out of it, whatever you want? Or would you rather go to, say, 2 home National League Divisional Series games for the Cincinnati Reds? Is that a no-brainer?
No-brainer. Yeah, I don't think that's a question.
Okay. What about the whole All-Star weekend or just one home game, one playoff game?
I also don't think that's a question.
I would rather go to the All-Star game than like Game 2.
Yeah, I'm not asking like Game 5. I'm not asking the first game. I'm saying like just Game 2, which could not determine.
Yeah. I'll take the All-Star.
And it's the whole weekend. I'm talking Home Run Derby, the whole event.
I'll take that.
I think like if you're asking me if I'd rather go to an entire All-Star weekend or one NLDS game, unless it's Game 5, I think I'm taking the All-Star weekend.
Yeah. So am I.
Yeah, I'm definitely taking the home playoff game.
I'm with Jacob 100%.
Very, very easily, yeah. I mean, that stadium's electric on a Friday night against the Braves in the middle of June. What's it going to be in NLDS? Game 1, Game 2, Game 3? Doesn't matter. That'll be the most fun game of the decade in Great American Ballpark.
I would like to know the monetary value because, I mean, obviously everything has raised pricing. I think the All-Star package back in 2015 was like – my Home Run Derby ticket was like $150, and it wasn't in the outfield. So I think the whole All-Star weekend was probably like $500 or something like that. I wonder what a whole All-Star weekend package costs now. And I wonder – and the last time that the Reds had a home playoff game that you could go to was 2012. And you could get tickets for like $40, $50, right? I remember high school kids that I was going with, like going to the game because
were they that low?
I remember my friends that did not have jobs and like they just left school and were like, hey, we got cheap tickets, let's go.
Interesting. I don't remember them being that low. Because I remember that series. I know maybe they sold out too quick or something, but I know I tried to go to that series and I couldn't go. So I wonder if $50 would be insane. If I got a $50 playoff ticket. Right now, I would be over the moon.
Alex Wallace says he got a ticket for $10 in 2012
for the All-Star game for Game 5.
That's crazy.
Wow. Wild. What do you think you'd go for now? Speculating.
This season, with the team being as bad as they are, I mean, shoot, you can't even get in this weekend for like less than $40 or $50. I bet you could. You can
if you buy it off the site, right? They're not sold out on the site.
I bought 4 tickets upper level last night.
Yeah, they're probably $10 off on the site.
Yeah. I don't know. My guess would be probably somewhere. You could probably get a standing room for $80 or $90, maybe.
You're still thinking it's under 100?
I think you could get in I think you could find your way into the stadium for less than $100. I don't know if you're going to be able to see much.
I would imagine the ticket prices for a playoff game mirror the ticket prices of the concert games, if I had to guess. Obviously, without the concert.
I don't think you're getting in for less than $100 right now. Not with the hype on this team. I think, respectfully, Bobby and C are just trying to cash a check right now. So I think they are going to get all the season's worth with those tickets. I think $100 minimum.
For what it's worth, the ticket prices won't be determined by. I mean, they really won't be determined by Bobby. That's a classic demand and supply thing.
But Bobby and Philly C,
they'd probably start at like 50. Like if you bought them like straight from the Reds, they're probably like, top of the deck, $50 or something like that. And it just depends on what it costs from there on out. I think I'm with Elliot. I can't imagine nowadays a ticket for whatever the home playoff game, whether it be the wild card round or the NLDS, being under $100. I truly can't. If they are, you went to a Nats
I've been to a Nats. I went to the Nats NLDS. Yeah, it was cool. I would
Was that when they played the Cubs?
No, they played the Dodgers. They won that game. It was fun. They lost the series, but they won the game. It was fun. Yeah, they hit a late home run. Crowd was great. Kind of a cool October day. It was a lot of fun. It was a day game, which I would love to go to a night game. Yeah, I'd rather go to Game 5, obviously, than the All-Star game. But having been to an NLDS game before, and I've never been to an All-Star game or event. I was here in the city in 2015, but I didn't go to the game. I didn't go to the Home Run Derby. I wasn't really a part of any of that. So I think the All-Star stuff would be kind of cool.
Yeah. Have you guys ever been to a playoff baseball game?
Yeah, I went to one. I forget which game it was, but I went to one when it was here and against the Giants in 2012.
When you were a kid,
yeah,
right?
and then I went to Colorado for the Home Run Derby and All-Star game, whatever that was, 2 years ago.
Okay, sure. Yeah, that's awesome.
I have not, and I want to. It's a dream. I go to a lot of Reds games every year, so that would be a big check to mark off there.
I think it's a pretty common take that football is a better, in terms of the viewing experience, is better on TV than it is at the stadium. Now, obviously, you don't get the atmosphere and stuff like that. I've been to a Notre Dame football game, but they played Georgia Tech. I've never been to like Ohio State versus Michigan. I've never been to an SEC football game, so I've never like gotten the full crowd experience and everything like that, which is maybe why I have my takes against college football that I do.
Come visit. I'll get you right.
All right. When does Zach Bryan come to? He goes to Auburn, right?
Yeah, it's like 2.5 hours away.
All right,
we can work that out.
I saw that picture.
Spitting image.
Yeah, look just like.
You guys are related. You and Zach Bryan.
What's funny is part of the reason I started listening to him is like, the little Spotify image. Like when I started listening to him back in 2019, 2020, I was like, this guy kind of looks like me. That literally was like part of the reason. It's like this guy, like not obviously not one for one, but I mean we definitely both got blonde hair, both thicker build guys. Like we looked alike. So that's part of the reason I started listening to him. But that was a fun day. Just literally snuck in the back. The first thing, I have a video of meeting Zach Bryan. My wife and her friends kind of flirted with the fiddle player in the band. And the fiddle player was like, "You want to meet Zach?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure." And we just tagged along. And there's a video of this. And the first thing out of my wife's mouth, the second that Zach Bryan comes out, is a complete and utter lie. I mean, Zach comes out, "Hey, fellas," and stuff like that. And she just blurts out, "We danced to one of your songs at our wedding." We didn't. We literally just didn't. And then he asked, "What songs you danced to?" And I mean, you could just see the gears turning in her head. Just Godspeed, just threw a song out there. And it's just the first words that she said to Zach Bryan were an absolute and utter lie, but is what it is. We tried to do the exact same thing the last time we saw him. He's a bit more famous now.
Yeah.
It wasn't like trying to sneak in the back of Bogarts. It's a bit harder to go see Zach Bryan now. All right, let's do the Immaculate Grid. Brian B's always asking for it. Casey, are you ready to roll on that?
In 2 seconds.
All right. Man, Mouse Cop said Zach Bryan is mid.
Yeah, that's maybe
It's
one
tough.
of the worst takes he's had. He's
tough.
had some bad ones.
I will go to the Reds game if they make the postseason, for what it's worth. I've never been to a
let's go.
postseason. I would absolutely go. All right, Elliot, starting with you. Any former Reds that fit?
Yep, Johnny Cueto.
I would love to see
White Sox, Casey. Marlins, White Sox.
I would love to see geographical percentages.
I think we've got another former Red in the White Sox, Arizona Diamondbacks.
Adam Dunn?
Yeah, the donkey.
Yeah, that's what I did.
There is Johnny. 14%er. All right, put Adam Dunn in the White Sox Diamondbacks.
What do you want?
Adam Dunn. D-U-N-N.
For Mariners Diamondbacks, I did Justin Upton.
Y'all gonna make me lose my mind. Upton here, Upton here. Justin Upton, low-key, was on pace for 3,000 hits and then just stopped.
Very much so.
Like, he was he was 30 years old with 2,000 hits and then just
went away.
Yep. Didn't play anymore. Jose Abreu would fit in the White Sox Rookie of the Year. Are there any other?
I can't think of another one.
I mean, there's got to be a classic one. Did A-Rod win Seattle? I mean, I know Ichiro won Seattle Rookie of the Year. Julio Rodriguez won Rookie of the Year.
Kyle Lewis. Kyle Lewis is not going to get more
Kyle
than 10%.
Lewis 2 years ago.
Have they won back-to-back Rookie of the Years?
Yep. Kyle Lewis and
Julio.
For the Mariners?
Yeah, do
Yes.
Kyle Lewis.
Is Kyle Lewis hurt right now?
I
don't know.
no
They're not
idea
very
what Kyle
good.
Lewis is up to.
How do you spell it?
Kyle
Lewis.
Well, the last name.
Lewis.
Okay.
Marlins 100 RBI season. Marcell Ozuna.
Going with Marcel.
Going with Marcel.
All right. Marcell Ozuna for Marlins 100 RBI
I got
season.
Yelich wrong on that one. I played this grid last night. I got one person.
What was it again? I'm sorry.
Go
I'm so bad at this.
What was it?
Marcell Ozuna.
Okay, got it.
Yep.
I got one.
Take that.
Luis Gonzalez for the Diamondbacks 100 RBI season. I mean, we could do like Paul Goldschmidt.
I did
but-
Goldschmidt. That's not.
Let's do Luis Gonzalez. Let's do shout out.
Or Jake Lamb.
Yeah.
Luis Gonzalez?
Yep. Man, was that a 40%er?
Yep.
Jake Lamb would have been better.
been a
Go
lot
to the 100 RBIs, Rookie of the Year, bottom right corner there. What about current Cub, Cody Bellinger?
Did he have 100 RBIs as a rookie?
We're going to find out.
Are we gonna put this in? Let's. Are we gonna look it up first?
I already put it in.
It's in there. So
It's in there.
What's the percentage on that?
That was a
3.
good one. That was a good one. Did Ryan Howard get 100 RBIs as a?
Does it need to be 100 RBIs
He did not.
in your rookie season? Or is it...
Didn't you say you put Ryan Braun in there? And
It shot it back to me on my phone.
all right.
I
Has there
can't
been
think of another
any
White Sox.
other White Sox Rookie of the Year than Jose Abreu?
I will tell you, there have been 6 White Sox Rookie of the Years.
Okay.
I will no longer answer this question.
I'm looking it up.
Sean says Ozzie Guillen.
I mean, it's correct.
Are we going with Ozzy?
Ozzy did win.
Go Ozzy.
Ron Kittle. I'm looking this. Just pumping this along as I get down there. Yeah, go ahead and put Ozzy in there. All right. We need a Marlin Mariner. There's no former Red we can fit in there.
Not that I'm thinking of. Dylan Floro didn't play for the Mariners, did he?
Let's try and find. Did Luis Castillo
No.
play for the Mariners?
Yeah,
Oh, for
that
the-
would absolutely work. Luis Castillo would absolutely
Luis
work.
Castillo. Yeah, put in Luis Castillo. Luis. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, no, he didn't play for the Marlins.
Luis Castillo played for the Marlins. Did not play for the Mariners?
He's on the
Currently on the
He's
Mariners.
on the Mariners.
And we traded for him from the Marlins. How is that not?
He didn't play a game for the Marlins, I don't think. Did he?
We're talking about different Luis Castillos. I'm
Oh.
talking Luis Castillo that played on the Marlins in like 2003.
Oh no! See, that's what.
That's where
see,
we
that's
were-
why.
that's
That's why
where
you were
we might have
wrong.
led you
And now
astray.
we're not immaculate because of
Yeah,
it.
because of you.
Sergio Romo would have fit.
Now I said, does Luis Castillo work? And you said he absolutely works.
But
Because he played up. We traded for him from the Marlins, and he's currently a Mariner.
Oh man,
Tough.
But
This is brutal.
He must have never made it to the majors.
we were talking about different Luis Castillos. I was talking about the better one. All right, let's do. We haven't done this in a while. I feel like All-Star break is a good time to pump in buy or sell. This is going to be about your beloved Cincinnati and Reds. All right, guys. Buy or sell. Chat, chime in along with this. Jacob, this team can win the division with the roster it currently has.
Oh, buy. 100% buy. Buy. I think if all things stay the same across the division, I'm taking the Reds for sure. I don't know. I feel like this lineup showed they can produce with lackluster pitching, and probably can just eke it out down the line. I don't think it's going to be easy. I think it's going to be.
But you say that they do have a good enough
it can
roster
be
to
done.
win the
Yes.
National League Central. Elliot, you going against it?
I'm gonna buy. I think. I think the Reds. I think the Reds can win. I do. I don't know what do you think the magic number is going to be?
That was my question.
91.
If they go one game under 500 for the rest of the season, that's 85 wins.
I don't think that does it.
You don't think 85 wins does
I
it?
think it absolutely.
You think
does.
85 does it?
I think 80. Yeah, 85.
I think
86.
85 is. I don't know if it does it, but that's
right
right
where it
there.
is.
Like 85 to 88, I think
I
wins.
do not think the NL Central winner has 90 wins. I'll put it that way.
Okay.
What do they got to do to 90 wins? You're 18 games.
You're on pace for 89 and a half right now.
Okay, so I was like, they got to
exactly
equally
what we just
go
did. Yeah.
9 games over. Paul, you think this team can win the division with the roster it currently has?
I do. I think the Reds win this division by 3 or 4 games. Bye. I do. I'm buying this. I don't think that this is, Tracy Jones thinks they're going to win it running away. I don't know if they're going to win it running away, but I do. I think they win this division by 3 or 4 games. I think you go into the last week of the season and you're feeling really good about yourself, and maybe you get it at home there in that last home series. I do. I'm buying this.
Casey? Any different? Okay, love it. The thing about the Cincinnati Reds are they absolutely, with the way that they're currently playing, can win the division and don't have to add any pieces. The only concern, and I've been saying this for a while now because maybe it's just me wanting to, as a Cubs fan, justify what's been going on with the Cincinnati Reds over the past 2 months, but you got Spencer Steer with an OPS plus of 121. You got Matt McClain with a 129. You got Will Benson, 131. TJ Friedel, 120. Jake Fraley, 120. Elly De La Cruz, 130. They're all playing incredibly well. All of these young pieces. Is it rational, or if not even logical, to assume that at some point they're going to slump collectively? And we've seen pieces of, a bad series here, a bad series there from different players, but a collective slump, is that logical to think that that's going to happen at some point? They are rookies. This does happen with nearly every rookie that's ever played Major League Baseball, that they had a bad month here or there. I don't know. This team can win the division, so I guess that answers the question that I initially posed. So a lot of talk has been said about Cincinnati Reds and what they can do at the trade deadline to enhance the team. We already asked the question, can they win the division with the current roster they have? The best 2 additions that the Cincinnati Reds can make in the next month are Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo. Buy or sell. Them coming back to the team.
I'll buy that. Buy. Yeah, I'll buy that.
Yeah?
I don't know. I think Nick Lodolo struggled this season. I know large part due to injury, but and certainly the depth would help the starters and it would help the bullpen ultimately as well. But I don't think those 2 make or break this season. I'm going to sell it. I don't think those 2. Do we have a sell effect? Do we have a sell sound?
Still Jim Kramer.
No, but I think those 2 certainly help the team. 1,000,000% they obviously help this team. However, I don't think this season depends on them getting back. I don't. I think the Reds have proven that they do not need them to win games. They just don't. They haven't been winning because of their starters this year. I don't think 2 starters would help them. Those 2 starters specifically would lower or
Raise the ceiling.
Raise, thank you.
Do you think there's a better starter out there that we can add than either of those 2 guys?
Yeah, that's essentially the question.
So. That's what I mean.
That's essentially the question that I'm asking is there someone better that you can get than Nick Lodolo and Hunter Green that the Reds will actually go after? I think these are the best 2 additions that they're going to get.
Yeah, I think there could be. I think guys for Oakland, I think J.P. Sears, Paul Blackburn, I think those guys would be better than Nick Lodolo was this season. So I would think certainly Lucas Giolito. I'd take Lucas Giolito. The injury stuff is concerning. So I don't know. You're banking on them being healthy, and they have yet to be healthy in their careers.
Paul, any varying opinions?
I go back and forth on this one because I'm with you guys where I say that I would lean to sell this, but I also don't know who else you're going to go out and get. And I mean, you could make an argument here that the next 2 weeks of this season are far and away the most important 2 weeks of the season because it's going to dictate what the rest of the division does on July 31st. And if they figure out that they can go out and get somebody, whoever that is, then maybe these guys aren't the most important pieces. But if the Brewers kind of sell a little bit or whatever happens with the rest of the division, then maybe having a Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo, who, I hate to say it, but would be more reliable than at least a Dream Weaver.
Correct. But I think, like Nick Lodolo's ERA is like 7-something, and Hunter's is maybe below 4 right now.
Yeah, it's
a little bit.
They're both on pace to come back in early August, correct?
Right. That's that's what's being reported. Who knows? But yeah.
Their biggest asset to us would be depth, and it would help guys in the bullpen take breaks. It would help the other starters take breaks. We could move some of the now starters to the bullpen. I think that is the most important part of those two. I don't think it's necessarily their great pitching, because I don't think they have been great yet.
So you don't think that there's going to be a major improvement in the starting rotation with them two coming back?
No, I don't think so. I think Brandon Williamson is doing.
You're taking out Luke Weaver,
right? Like
those
are
Lively
two
for Nick Lodolo and Hunter Green. Like that's an objective improvement.
But Nick Lodolo has been horrible this season. Horrible.
In how many starts when he's battling a leg injury?
For what it's worth, Nick Lodolo, how many starts did he have before he got hurt? Like 10, 12, somewhere around there. And 4 of the starts were absolutely fantastic.
Right.
And the other 6 starts were Dreamweaver.
Correct. I think, I don't know. I just think, I think that our season does not depend on those two. It really doesn't. Again, depth right now. The bullpen is going through it. Starters are going through it, so we'll see what happens. But those two have not pitched well enough to say they make or break this season.
I'm close to selling on the Reds adding a starting pitcher at all. So that's that they are the best addition that we can realistically have, in my opinion, to the rotation.
Yeah, it's fair.
Yeah, I think I'm biased. I have come 180 on my take about the Cincinnati Reds and what they need to do to bolster their starting rotation. And that the best thing that can happen for them right now is getting Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo healthy. Those guys come back right around the time that the trade deadline happens. And what would look better to this starting rotation than getting the 2 young pieces that we, before the season, thought were going to be the crux of the team, getting them back throwing 6 innings a night.
You're getting them back after injuries, though, right? So I don't know how healthy they will be. I don't know how good to go they'll be, because I assume the Reds will be rushing them back, obviously, to try to help the team. So I don't know. 34 innings, 24 earned runs for Nick Lodolo this season.
Lower ERA than Dreamweaver.
Still better than Luke Weaver.
It's true.
Like, that's what we're talking about. It's just market improvements. Like, you're just getting better at, even if it's pitcher 4 and pitcher 5, it's still improving the rotation.
For what it's worth, he gave up 24 earned runs this season, and 14 of them came in 2 starts. Back-to-back starts, he gave up 8 runs and 6 runs over the course of 8 2/3 innings. Other than that, was fairly good.
He was great the year before.
Right. And Hunter Green, I think, has been.
He's been very good.
The idea that Hunter Green doesn't vastly. I might argue, I don't know, besides bringing in Shohei Ohtani or Shane Bieber, that there's a better arm on the market to come back to a team than Hunter Green.
I completely agree with that.
Right. He's better than Lucas Giolito this season. I don't know how the numbers in front of me, but it feels like that. That's just gut. Oh well.
And you have to add in the fact that what are you giving up for the pitchers that are actually better than Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo? Like, there's not many of them, like we just said. So you got to think the price is way too high. I mean, do we really want to make a Tyler Mahle trade again? Like, set this team back years and years? I don't know.
Lucas Giolito has a 3.45 ERA.
What's
Hunter Green?
Not 3.45.
All right, fair enough.
All right.
Casey, did you have a take either way on this?
Yeah, I mean, if you want my honest opinion,
I want your honest opinion. Don't give me your dishonest opinion.
It's not going to make or break the team, but it is the best case scenario for the team. Getting both those guys back early August would like you said, Elliot, just give the relief that they need. I think Hunter Green is a solid starter, and I think Nick Lodolo is a solid starter. I mean, he was leading the league in strikeouts before he got hurt. I don't know if people remember that. And he was doing solid, like you said, for the first 4 games. It's not his fault that he gets hurt. So I think it's a big deal that they come back. I think that's the best that they can do.
Jonathan India is a Cincinnati Red on August 1st.
I'm going to buy.
Okay.
Buy.
That made Elliot so happy.
No, I don't want him to be. I hope he's not, but I think he will be. I think it's
Is this a classic case of the Cincinnati Bengals? And like you're just like, there could be a move, but at the end of the day, is there going to be a move?
I don't think there's a pitcher on the market realistically that Jonathan India can get you back that's worth it at the trade deadline. I think you move him in the offseason.
I think Jonathan India is a Red on August 1st. Bye.
Yeah, I'm starting to begin to wonder what the Reds are even going to do at the deadline.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Like, we talk so much about, they need pitching. They could do this with a flip. Pick one of the prospects that they feel like is the most expendable and maybe go out and get something huge for him. I mean, I'm beginning to wonder if the Reds just kind of stand pat and let the rest of the division try and make a move.
I mean, we've already brought this up, but is it rational to think that they'd pull the Baltimore Orioles and, sell? Still, like Jonathan India would be a selling. Like, he wouldn't be a Jonathan India for a starting pitcher. It'd be Jonathan India for a prospect.
I feel like it's much more realistic that happens where you see on August 1st, Jake Fraley, Tyler Stevenson, and Jonathan India are all on different teams. I wouldn't be shocked by that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Mix a Senzel in there too.
There's just so many questions right now.
What is Senzel's market? Everyone talks about Nick
Senzel. Has nuts.
But Senzel hits 130 against right-handed pitching and 400 against lefties. So what kind of value does that add?
Right, Nick Senzel. Everyone talks about Nick Senzel. I mean, he's his batting average 238, on base percentage 310. He's slugging 381. Nick Senzel can't get you shit.
Yeah,
not one thing.
No.
Not one thing. The issue I have with the Jonathan India thing is I don't know where the roster will be. We have 3 catchers right now. We can't have 3 catchers come playoff time.
True.
I think Noelvi Marte, if he's good enough, he is going to come up. We have Encarnacion Strand, who I don't understand why he's not up yet. So I think with those 2 guys, if those 2 guys are definitely coming up, then you have to look to trade Jonathan India because Jonathan India can't play over those guys.
If Noelvi is not ready yet and India does go with the trade deadline, I don't think we have a big issue because Spencer Steer can play a pretty solid third base.
Correct.
You can mix Nick Senzel in there. You have the middle infield of the future. Rotate through Steer and Votto and hopefully CES at first. And I don't think Noelvi Marte is absolutely crucial in the trading Jonathan India conversation, even though that's the guy he's blocking in theory.
No, but with Encarnacion Strand and him, that's 2 spots
Correct.
now.
Correct.
You're taking away Casali or Maley. One of them has to go.
One of those spots has to be the third catcher.
So you think the 3 catcher thing has to stay?
If
the
Tyler
Cubbies in
Stevenson-
2015, 2016
if
did it.
Tyler Stevenson is on your team, you need 2 other catchers. That's the issue right now.
Okay, all right.
Is that not true?
He can't catch.
He
Yeah,
can't catch.
It's true. And like Jacob
Cubbies
said, I
had
think
4 catchers if you count Kyle Schwarber.
Jacob said yesterday that Tyler Stevenson's bat isn't warranting, to be that poor as a defensive catcher as he is, and he's right. So I don't know what the plan is for Tyler Stevenson. I think Chucky Robinson has been playing better down in AAA. Why do you laugh at Chucky Robinson, man? Chucky Robinson's done everything right. He just plays the game the right way.
It's an objectively funny name.
Chucky?
Chucky Robinson.
But
Sounds like a jazz player.
Tyler Stevenson right now is the least valuable player on this team outside of Maley and whatever his face.
Now, in Stevenson's last 15 games, he's hitting up at 304. So if maybe he needs the All-Star break, you take a good catch.
Even that, I love that, but it's weak hits, it's slap hits.
If he can catch, then that's fine.
Correct, but he can't.
Correct.
So I don't know. I don't think the 3-catcher thing can work in the postseason, but we'll see. What was the question?
I was just going to say Jonathan India only has 40 points higher on the slugging percentage than Tyler Stevenson. So that's interesting. I mean, Tyler Stevenson has 7 home runs. I mean, he's on pace for what? Would that be 15 home runs as a catcher?
Yeah.
It's not nothing.
He's DH.
He's DH.
So
that's correct. That is not good.
Right.
That is not good. We got Kirby in here. I think no Kirby. All right, final question I got for you. Reds fans can be upset with the season if the Reds don't win the division.
I'll buy that.
All right, there we go. I was fishing a little bit.
That's where I'm putting my line of disappointment. And I think that does change if we get through the trade deadline and we don't make any moves, or if these Lodolo and Hunter Green injuries linger into mid to late August. I think that could change. But right now, I don't see any reason why. I mean, Tom says it every day on the show that the 9 guys the Reds are walking out there every day are the best in the division by far. Like it's just the rotation, and
by far.
You can't win with a rotation like this, but in this division, you might be able to. So I think that's where I'm putting my line for disappointment.
Yeah, I think, again, somewhere along the line, Reds fans kind of got warped where it's all about the rebuild, it's all about the process. but you have to buy the fact that, if they don't win this season, if they go on a 20-game lose streak here, it negates everything. I mean, it doesn't negate everything, but it negates a 90% of it, right? I mean, it's upsetting. It would be frustrating if the Reds go out and tank the rest of the year. Maybe not trying to tank, but just they're not. Maybe they weren't that good, right? So they were predicted 64 wins. They're going to crush that number. But at the same time, fans can be upset that their team is not succeeding when it comes to the playoffs.
Bye. Yeah, I mean, I think you make a really good point where if the Reds were to tank out here and lose the division by 8 to 10 games and finish 9 games under 500, 10 games under 500, at this point, you would feel like every bit of goodwill that was built up over the last 35 days, maybe not as completely gone, but you'd feel like, all right, we did 1 step forward and 3 steps back. On this day, July 12th, I would say I would be very disappointed if the Reds did not win the NL Central this year. But the Orioles situation from last year keeps playing in the back of my head where I was thinking the same thing about those guys when they were starting to call up all the guys. And I'm thinking to myself, there's no way they missed the playoffs with the way everything's going. And again, the AL East was a lot better. But they were right there on the doorstep of it, just about even money to make the playoffs, and then fell off. And now they're having a great year. I'm going to be disappointed though if the Reds don't win the. I'm going to be very disappointed if the Reds don't win the Central.
Would you be upset if the Reds started selling like the Orioles did then? They sell India, they sell Stevenson, let's say they sell Diaz. I know Reds fans love to threaten to trade Diaz.
If they sell India and they sell them for prospects and they don't make the postseason, does that make you feel better or worse?
It makes me feel. Well, I guess in that case,
feel better.
It'd make you feel better because you got something out of the season, but then you could also, did we not make the postseason because Jonathan India?
Yeah, it's true.
Did the mood in the clubhouse change once you? I know the clubhouse. I'm not saying because Jonathan India is a leader. I'm saying because the team sold. Like that changes a mood in the clubhouse. Like it feels like the organization isn't backing you when you sell. So that's worth something.
To be fair, that's what I want for Jonathan India. I want prospects. I want higher level AA guys that are high ceilings instead of a guy like a Lance Lynn or Lucas Giolito.
So let me ask this question then, because it seems like we all have the bar that it'd be a disappointment at this point in time if the Reds don't win the division, that you can be upset. If the Reds don't make a move and the Reds don't win the division, like they stay put with the roster that they currently have, are you guys okay with that? Are you okay? The Reds do not do anything and they don't make the postseason. Because then you're going to be like, we should have done something at the All-Star break to make this team. Like, say the starting pitching keeps doing terrible, and the bats go a little quiet for 2 weeks, and then next thing you know, you're out.
So the best example of this is 2021. They were a bullpen away from making the postseason, I'd argue, and they didn't help the bullpen. They half-assed a trade for Justin Wilson and Luis Sessa. That was the only thing they did. This season, I would actually give Nick Krall a pass to not make a single move, just because of how far. And again, Reed's mentioned it earlier. The regression's going to come for this team. It has to.
It doesn't have to.
It has to.
But it seems logical that it will.
It has to. It never doesn't happen. Maybe the Moneyball A's that Reed loves. But I think Nick Krall has made so many good moves. One starting pitcher does not propel this team into the postseason. It helps. It helps a lot, right? An additional reliever, an additional eighth inning guy. It helps, but
second left-hander.
A second left-hander. It helps, but it doesn't make or break. Similar to my opinion of Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo. Obviously, you want them to play, but it doesn't make or break anything with this season. A bullpen in 2021 would have saved that season. They didn't do it. They didn't help. They lost. Right? Injuries also plagued them, and I think the Reds have been pretty fortunate this year with injuries as well. So outside of Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo, I think, I would be okay with Nick Krall staying still and not making a move. Just because, it also depends what the lead is. If the Reds are 3 games back, 5 games back at that time, don't make a move, right? There's not a big chance. If you're 6, 7 games up, you have the pieces clearly, right? Don't make a move. The only move that would have to be made is if you're 500 and you have to make a decision right then or there. Is it go time? And I don't know if he'll make that call this year, and I'd be okay with it.
I'm trying to wrap my brain around the mood of Cincinnati Reds fan, and that's why I'm asking you guys about what it would be like if the Reds sit on their hands, do nothing, which is, I think, almost what we've come to agreement that the Reds should do, or at least we think that they're going to do. I think the most likely move that the Reds do is trade Jonathan India before they keep Jonathan India and go out and get a starting pitcher. I don't know what's more likely. It seems more likely that they do the India thing.
Somebody in the chat points out it's completely wild that 1 month of good baseball in June, the expectations to win the division. The difference is that the team in April and May was a different team than what happened in June. And now you have the team on the field that can win the division. April and May, you look at the opening day roster.
Jason Vossler.
That was not an NL Central winning roster. You call up Elly, you call up Matt McClain, you call up all these guys. This is a NL Central contending, potentially winning, probably should winning roster. That's the difference. It's not so much that they just played one good month. It's that they have played one good month and shown consistently, series after series, that they're showing different ways to win. It would be nice if one of those different ways was through starting pitching. It's not, but so it goes. The Reds are showing right now that they are at least versatile enough to come back, to win. I mean, it is right now like a surefire thing, betting on the Reds. You just wait until the second or third inning. They're going to be down, and then they're going to come back and win. That's how I've bet on the Reds the last 2 weeks.
Yep.
And it just pays off damn near every night. And now here we are where, yes, I understand the one good month is what it is, but it's also because you have the roster that now you're going to contend with over the next 2.5 months.
AJ Worth says, Nick Krall is going to acquire a pitcher for a great price. I can feel it. Can you imagine? The Reds fandom is largely on the same train with each other because the Reds have been so electric over the past 6 months, but there's pockets and cracks in the armor where, the Jonathan India discourse that happened a couple weeks ago. Stuff like that you can kind of see both sides of an argument going at each other in one fan base. Can you imagine what would happen if the Cincinnati Reds trade Noel Marte for a starting pitcher?
I would pick it outside of
right. There will be a half of Noel Marte for Shane Bieber, just straight up. I'm just hypothetical. I don't know the values, if that makes sense at all. I don't care. I'm just saying that half of the Reds fan base will be so excited that Shane Bieber is coming to the Reds, and then half the fan base will be losing their minds that they got rid of Noel Marte.
But Jacob, what if they win the World Series with that acquisition? If Shane Bieber.
Well, yeah, winning solves every issue.
But that's my issue. What
if they don't? What if they miss the postseason with Shane Bieber?
But then you have to make a risk. You have to risk it, right?
Well, that's what we're saying.
This is not our year to risk it. It's not.
If it were to happen, and we were to get to a World Series with Shane Bieber, and we were to lose the World Series, I still think it's worth it.
If you get to the World Series on the mound, it'd be worth it.
You're right. No, you're right, Elliot.
100%.
But they can spin it back on you and say, all right, if you get Shane Bieber and lose Noel Marte and you don't make the postseason, then people can.
And we'd have Shane Bieber next year.
Then people can get rightfully pissed.
But this is I don't fault teams for trying to win now. And I think that's kind of where it's lost on some fans, where you trust the process. The Reds, respectfully, have failed at whatever process they have done for the last 25 years, right? And again, you're basing Nick Krall has done a phenomenal job. I'm not saying he hasn't.
When did Nick Krall take over? 2018.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Nick Krall's process has worked phenomenally.
It has.
Right.
It has.
The new guy.
How many wins is that?
Signed the new guy.
How many playoff series wins?
His first move as executive of the Cincinnati Reds was to sign Matt Harvey, who was on crack. Go on.
Get the truth.
How many playoff series wins has Nick Krall's process given us?
We're just getting here.
But
this is the results of the process. June was the result of the process.
But this is what I'm talking about. When does the process work, right? Because right now it's working. Why can't you capitalize it?
I think it'd be absolutely foolish to go all in this year.
Listen, I'm not saying go all in. I just had to take 10 minutes ago where I said it's okay if he doesn't make any move.
But you're saying to trade
There's also in the back of your mind having to remember that the Cardinals might not be this bad again next year.
That's a point too. I think
the Central might not be as winnable as it is this year.
I think
the Cubs
the
might
Pirates
have a Japanese two-way player.
Nice. Shohei to the Cubs. I think the Cubs will be better. I think the Pirates will be better. I think the Brewers will be the only team that regresses in the offseason. I'm just saying, if the process is so good and we trust the process has evidently worked. There is clear evidence of that. And right now, there is a very good chance to make some noise in the postseason. Why not take it? I don't think fans should be upset that they trade a prospect for a chance to win games.
I disagree that there's a very good chance for us to make a run in the postseason. We do not have the pitching. We need at least.
But if you got Shane Bieber, it would help that pitching.
Oh, okay, yeah. I forgot we have Shane Bieber in this scenario.
Well, we do. That's the
Noel
point.
Marte,
I just
is also not the package it would take to get Shane Bieber.
Fans can't
what
be
I'm
upset
talking
you would have to trade Edwin Roy as well.
The point of me proposing this hypothetical has played out before your eyes, guys.
We're not.
If Nick Krall goes out and gets a starting pitcher for a prospect, CES, Noel Marte, whoever, there's going to be half the Reds fan base super excited, half the Reds fan base losing their mind. It's a minefield, and I'm curious to see what happens. Jacob, you're about to make a point.
You said when we were talking about Jameson Taillon that Cubs can overcome mistakes like that.
They can.
Because you have deep pockets.
Right.
The Reds cannot.
It's great.
Trading a player like Noel Marte for a 2-year rental of a starting pitcher, you cannot overcome that if it doesn't work. You can't do it. That's the difference. We are not the Yankees. We are not the Cubs. We are not the Dodgers. We cannot overcome ravaging the farm system for a 1-year run.
For what it's worth, the reason that the Cubs didn't sustain success is because they gave away their farm system. The Eloy Jimenez, Dylan Cease trade for Jose Quintana was terrible, objectively. Gleyber Torres for Aroldis Chapman worked out.
Dodgers traded O'Neal Cruz and Yordan Alvarez. They don't even miss a beat. We trade guys like that. We are in the dumpster for a decade.
But my thing is, we're in the dumpster. We've still been in the dumpster.
The Reds. Nick Krall has been here for 5 years.
Right. So why are you wanting to not trust the process?
Right.
Quote unquote. Like you're getting there from trusting the process. Now you're like, now you see the light out the end of the tunnel, and you're like, let's rock and roll.
You get a little taste of success, and you want to throw it all away.
I think if you have 2 aces and there's an ace showing on the first 3 hands drawn in poker, you go all in.
Do you think that's what? You think the Reds are? You think the Reds are pocket aces?
I think they're close. I think they're pretty.
You think
close,
they're pocket aces with Dreamweaver throwing every 5 days?
I think they're pretty close. Do I think they're better than the Atlanta Braves?
They're J9 at best.
No, I do not.
Yeah, they are J9 at best. You
You
can win a lot of pots with J9.
I think,
but it's not pocket aces.
Okay.
The Braves are pocket aces.
Braves are pocket aces. And they've shown that they can win, and they know when to spend when it's time. So we'll see. I just hope this sense of it's always about the future, and it's never for the now. I hope that mindset changes eventually. I hope it does, and I've yet to see it.
Fair enough.
We'll see.
Fair enough. So the question asks, Brewer Crew, we saw the first 3 games. Brewers took 2 of 3 in Milwaukee. Second set of 3 games starts this weekend. Great America. A few questions I got. 1, are the games all going to be sold out? I think they are.
Yes.
Secondly, how badly is it going to hurt the Cincinnati Reds if they lose this series to the Brewers? I don't think it knocks them out, but definitely puts them on the map.
Well, what's going to be tough is that there's a chance they have to play a doubleheader on Sunday. So then how does that affect the weather looks awful on Saturday. So then how does that affect?
So I shouldn't go camping this weekend.
The bullpen. Yeah. Do not go camping. Weather looks horrific on Saturday. So, how does that affect, if they have to play a doubleheader on Sunday with the Reds and the pitching and the bullpen? That would stink. But
what more electric way to spend a Sunday than a doubleheader, Brewers Reds
I'm now
out at Great American Ballpark.
For Saturday to get rained out.
So I've always been that the MLB should have more doubleheaders.
I 100% agree.
Like the MLB should just take Monday off and have one marquee game, play Monday Night Baseball. And then every team plays a doubleheader on Sunday. That would be great. I think that would be
awesome.
Awesome. Not 7 innings either. I want 9 innings.
No, 100%.
I like the 7-inning things. I do like the 7-inning doubleheader. But what was that sound?
throwing up in my mouth.
Oh, okay. I will, and again, I hate to compare this team to the 2021 team, but truly I do think they are similar. They had the same scenario with Brewers before the All-Star break, Brewers after the All-Star break. In that situation, they beat the Brewers 3-4 before the All-Star break. They were swept at home against Milwaukee coming back from the All-Star break, and I'd argue that was the start of the collapse of that team. So I think this series is massive. This series is massive. It shows you can beat the Brewers, which, again, the Reds have not proven that often the last 4 years or so. So I think it's massive.
Is this the third biggest series of the decade against the Brewers? The third time we've had the biggest
This year.
series of the decade
Yeah.
against the Brewers this year?
Yeah, I would say.
I think it is.
Unironic. If they get swept this series, it's bad. We're in trouble.
But again, you circle back to the new schedule. You just don't play the Brewers again.
Right.
You play them 3 more times. You can beat the other teams.
Oh, this is
and
the
still win
last time
division.
that they play the Brewers?
No.
At
3
home.
more
And
times.
then we play 3 in Milwaukee.
When? September, August?
I believe September.
Okay.
No.
I think it's August. I thought it was
Is it August?
Wait, who?
August.
Reds at Brewers.
No, it's in like 2 weeks.
Oh,
Yeah, it's within 20 days.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. They have like 2 or 3 series in between.
Wow.
Yeah. It might even be before the deadline.
Then even then, I think that makes the games a little less meaningful. I mean, you still want to win the games. You got to beat the Brewers, but if you have,
It does stink.
You have 60 games after the Brewers series.
You remember they used to always stack your division games? Like your final 9 games would be in division.
Yep.
Right.
They did that on purpose. It was beautiful.
Right.
God, there's trade-offs, right?
Yeah.
With the new schedule.
It goes. It's Brewers at home, Giants at home, D-backs at home. Then they go to Milwaukee, 24th, 25th, 26th. They don't see the Brewers again.
Wow.
Losing 5 or 6 to the Brewers would be tough. Not ideal.
What's the number? 3?
What's the number? What do you mean?
Now,
Of the 6 games, what's the number that you need?
They got to win this series, is what you're.
They have to win the series.
in defense of the MLB,
They win the season. If they go 2-1, they're up 2 games, right?
Yep.
Okay.
in defense of the MLB schedule makers and what maybe they thought the NL Central was going to look like, the Reds do play the Cubs 4 times, the Cardinals 5 times, and the Pirates 3 times in September. So, I mean, they do have a ton of division games. It's just not
Okay.
against the Brewers.
They just didn't think that the Reds.
They just didn't think the Reds and Brewers were going to matter. Which
They end the season in St. Louis, and
Yeah.
what a wild turn of events. If I told you before the season that final series between the Cardinals and the Reds was going to determine who won the National League Central, the first thing in your mind's like, I hope the Reds are spoilers. Hope they do spoilers.
Yeah. That's crazy.
It is wild. I think I'm going to that series. I think I'm going to that final series.
I love Busch. I hate the Cardinals, but Busch Stadium is
Bonk,
incredible.
Paul, bonk.
bonk, baby.
You're the
you're
one who
bonked.
you're the one.
You're
You
bonked.
said
He said it.
You balked him. He was talking about the stadium.
BUSCH, Paul.
He was talking about the stadium.
He said
You
it.
said
He said it. I'm just pointing it out.
Did you guys ever hear? Have I ever told the story about how they named it Busch Stadium? So Budweiser owners, the Busch family, wanted to name their stadium Busch Stadium, or wanted to name their stadium Budweiser Stadium, and they wouldn't let them. So then they said, "All right, we'll name this is like in the '50s, the original Busch Stadium. All right, we'll name the Cardinal Stadium Busch Stadium, named after the family, not the beer, not Budweiser." A year after they built Busch Stadium, they started selling Busch and Busch Light. Just circumnavigated it entirely, which is an incredible move
That's great.
by their owners. I would love that. It's fantastic. All right, is there any sports? I kept in the vault. Is there any sports being
You
played
can
today?
take the Gold Cup. You can take the U.S.
Ugh.
Love your country.
Who do they play?
Oh, God, great question.
Canada again.
Panama.
Panama? Is it Panama tonight? It is Panama tonight.
I hope they play Trinidad again. Revenge
I
game.
wish Tom would be here so I could say that I didn't know Panama was in Central America. So you'd be like, you think it was in Indonesia? Golly.
I'm
I'm
going to
taking.
take the USA Panama tie at plus 255.
That's a good value there because ties always happen in soccer. Ricky Fowler plus 1,800 to win the Genesis Scottish Open. That starts.
That was your pick, Paul?
That starts tomorrow. That's your pick?
No.
He's out on Ricky.
No.
He's out on the Rickinator.
Oh, I think Ricky sucks, but I did it.
Tracy's guy.
Yeah, I know. I just did it for the bit.
Okay.
No shtick Wednesday.
We
Not
got
great.
the Barbasol.
Barbasol?
The
Pretty sure
what?
that's this weekend, too.
Is that this weekend?
Yeah.
Wait, what's the difference between the Barbasol and the Genesis Scottish? All the big names are at the Genesis Scottish.
Yeah, there's not big names at the Barbasol.
Because the Open's next week, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're all over there. They're all at Wimbledon.
We got 2 WNBA games starting in a minute.
Oh,
boy.
let's go, baby.
Actually, one. Do we want the Dallas Wings or the Minnesota Lynx?
Well, as a
Neither.
Stars show, I think we got to stick with Dallas.
But that's not the Stars. I mean, I don't root for the Cowboys. Don't root for SMU.
There's no WNBA ties. You got to have something.
Nothing fires me up like a little WNBA afternoon basketball on a Wednesday.
You know what? Let's take the Aces minus 12.5 over the Sparks tonight,
like
10
it.
p.m.
Great.
Lock into that
value
one.
bet.
Great pick.
It's a value
Really
bet.
good.
That's what we search for.
Really good stuff there.
What's
Really
the over-under?
good bet.
169.5.
In what?
In women's
Bonk.
WNBA,
Las Vegas Aces versus the Los Angeles Sparks.
I don't know anything about the scoring.
169.5?
Yep. That is the lowest over-under offered today in the WNBA.
Wow.
Wow.
That is not true. The Dallas Wings and Minnesota Lynx are at 168.
Don't let facts get in the way of good stories.
Yeah.
Well, that segment was sponsored by.
Where are we going to lunch?
Casey, I want Wingstop on there. I want Arby's on there.
I want the trampoline park on there.
Put the trampoline park
Did you
on
guys-
there.
Park on there.
1 hour of fun and
1
friendship.
hour of fun, but we
Did
don't.
you guys
Friendship.
just discover the trampoline park yesterday?
Yes.
Jacob pointed it out.
We sat outside at Firehouse and enjoyed the surroundings.
If you had
do you
to
want on
guess
there?
what former retail
Wingstop.
store that was, you want to take a guess?
What did he ask? I'm sorry.
Ellie
The
will handle this
trampoline
one.
park.
What
former
retail store?
major chain retail store
I'm
was
gonna
that
say
trampoline park?
Toys R Us is what I'm going to say.
Was not Toys R Us.
I'm gonna say Kroger's.
No, that was not a
No,
Kroger.
the Rural King took over the
Brother.
Kroger.
Oh, that's right. Rural King took over Kroger. Let me pick another
Rural
one.
King did not take over Kroger. The Kroger has always been where the Kroger is over here on the west side.
Rural King took it over. You can buy a tractor. Get your tractors now.
Rural King took over Kmart.
R.I.P. Kmart. I love Kmart.
Big Lots is no longer around here on the
And
west
we
side.
need-
And we're talking about
Michaels.
we're talking
Michaels.
about
That's my
we're
guess,
also talking
Michaels.
about Bridgewater Falls. We're talking about like the suburbs here, like of Hamilton.
My guess is Michaels.
Michaels. The answer was H.H. Gregg.
Was what?
H.H. Gregg,
Oh, H.H. Gregg.
like the Best Buy,
Yeah.
like from like 30 years ago.
All right, we need suggestions here.
Wingstop's on there.
Yep. Gold Star T-Bell.
Arby's was brought up earlier.
Arby's.
Arby's, Wendy's.
Yeah, I could do Wendy's.
Wendy's.
No.
Put Sonic
Put
on
Sonic
for the
on
fun.
the
Just for
wheel.
the
It's no shtick Wednesday.
It's no shtick Wednesday, but
Is
let's
this a
just do it
shtick?
for the fun. Let's just do it for the fun.
That's no lunch. We had tuna lunches up there.
Have a few laughs.
It won't win. It won't win. Have a few laughs.
All right, we got Sonic on there. Here we go.
Paul's gonna get
Dude, guys,
more
if you go to
footlongs?
Kroger here in Hamilton, the receipts are buy one BOGO foot-long conies from Sonic.
Oh God.
They also have $4 off of Hothead, which I thought was
Canes.
Canes, Raising.
Kane.
Neil's.
Oh, Neil's. I could smack on Neil's right now. Yeah.
That's
Gina's?
not how you spell Neil's.
Wait.
Gina's?
Gina's.
Oh yeah, I haven't been to Gina's in a long time.
Sure. That's good. Looks like a good list. I still think it's crazy that you guys have never heard of Rural King.
I really hope we get Trampoline Park.
Rural King.
Oh, trampoline park out. Didn't even let us think about it.
That's a shame.
I learned how to do a backflip there.
Trampoline park.
Here we go. We have to do a wheel of punishments one day.
That's only you,
That's
dude.
only for you.
Elliot,
Why? You guys aren't fun. You guys aren't just not fun.
you're a sadist.
Nobody wants to get punished.
Elliot clearly
I mean,
does.
besides Elliot, yeah.
Elliot took the best starting pitcher in the National League would allow a run in 1 inning of pitching.
Listen. You can't be the king of shticks if you don't live up to it, right?
It's No Shtick Wednesday.
Well, that's true. I broke that.
And we're going to Sonic.
Oh, see you, Gina's.
Oh man,
Tough.
Gina's.
It's very excited for Gina.
I was just looking at a Snapchat memory last night.
Of Gina's?
Yeah, of all of us at Gina's, I was thinking we hadn't been there in a long time. See ya, Wingstop. Get out of my life.
You don't like Wingstop?
Worst.
Oh, I love
Never had a good
Wingstop.
experience there.
Really? I love Wingstop.
Load me up
Why
with a
can't
lemon
they
tab.
figure out fast food wings? No one can figure out fast food wings.
It's a scam of the day.
What, Wingstop?
Wingstop's
Oh
good.
no, just pretty much any like main chain.
They can't figure it out, can they?
They
No
can't
one
figure
can.
it out.
The mango habanero wings at Wingstop are to die for. Great, good,
Little
great
lemon
fries.
pep. Little lemon pep on those.
Elliot, I'm starting to think we shouldn't have put Sonic on there.
Elliot, Sonic is hanging around entirely too
This
long
is getting
here.
ugly.
Oh, hold on, guys. Positive vibes. We don't have to go to Sonic. Mouse Cop's not
Do
even.
we do
Mouse
it?
Cop's not even here today. That's the funniest part.
You don't think he'd know?
Keep spinning.
He'd know.
Sonic
We're good.
There we go.
eliminated. There we
I
go.
like this trio.
I don't hate it. Reed. I don't know what Neil's is.
It's the barbecue
it's
place
literally
catty
right here.
cornered from
Oh,
us.
good looks.
Is it open today?
That is always a good question.
Like, there's a chance Niels has no lunch. Arby's.
Yes.
Arby's.
They have the meats.
They
Beef
do.
and cheddar.
Elliot's got to get his sandwich wet.
I can't wait to get chicken tenders there and have Reed look at me.
You love that sloppy roast beef.
You got to get a wet.
Do you not like Arby's?
No, I do, but I probably will get chicken tenders. I do like their chicken tenders.
Why would I look at you for that?
I don't. Reed judges me a lot, so we'll see.
I do actually judge people on what they eat, which is a terrible thing that I do. Yeah, I gotta stop that. Got to. All right, guys, this has been Box Lunch presented by Betfred Sportsbook. We'll see you on Friday. Who's taking the chat rankings this week?
Can I do it again?
Oh, yeah, we haven't talked about that.
I'd like to do it again.
Anyone want to do it?
I'd like to do
Yeah,
it.
it's
Anyone?
fine.
Anyone else?
I'd like to do it.
Paul, Casey,
Guys over here, I'd like to do it.
Jacob.
I'd like to do it.
All right, I guess we're gonna have to figure out when the show's over who's gonna be doing the chat power rankings.
Elliot will.
Elliot's got the chat power rankings this Friday, so suck up to Elliot. He is a glutton for pain, so
Hit him with your car. It'll be first.
see you guys. We'll see you on Friday.